Hey guys, how's it going? And happy Friday. I hope all of you are doing good. After spending about a week down in South Carolina and Georgia, which I had an awesome time, by the way. I was hanging out with you guys when I was down there, though. I did several live streams, posted a whole bunch of short videos, bunch of posts over on locals, but I'm back in Michigan and it is good to be home, even though it's like freezing cold right now. Hopefully, you guys are warm where you're at. And first and foremost, hopefully, you're all having a good time. And I hope all of you guys are hanging in there. And that's actually the reason I'm doing this stream tonight. Because we have major problems in this country right now. We have gun control, bump stocks, arm braces, potential assault weapons bans, potentially banning anything they want. And we're right on the cusp right now. And I know Ronald Reagan talked about this back in the 80s, but I don't really care about him right now. I don't really care about any of these people who are sitting high on a hill in Washington, D.C. All I really care about is you guys. And I want to reiterate, we are right on the edge right now of completely and utterly losing this republic, if we can keep it, as Ben Franklin said. Now, if I hear the word democracy one more time, I might scream, but I'm not going to scream in your ear because some of you might be using headphones right now. We don't have a democracy. This country was not founded on communism. It was not founded under socialism. It was not founded under a new world order or a new social order. And I encourage all of you to reject any great reset. Literally, when this country was formed, a country that would be of the people, by the people, for the people. And that literally the only reason a government would exist at all is to protect your natural rights. As the Declaration of Independence literally says, these are laws of nature and of nature's God. And we are all endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights. And among these, not limited to, but among these, literally it's beautiful. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the only way a government would exist is if it was to protect these natural rights. And it could only exist at the consent of the governed. And right now is a time where we need to decide, do we consent? Do we follow illegal laws? What's a criminal? What is the law of the land? And I want to propose an idea that might be somewhat shocking to some of you, because in public schools, certainly, and throughout education for a long time, they've just taught you, just be a good little minion. Just go work 9 to 5, pay most of your money to the government, join the military if that's what you're to do, and then you die. And they just keep getting richer and richer and more powerful. And a lot of people looked at this country when it was formed and they said, well, what's going to happen here? Because at that time they were fighting against the crown, against Great Britain, where their rights had been trampled on. A lot of British subjects at that time knew what it was to be free. Just remember, the colonists, they were loyal British subjects. And until all of these brave men signed their name on what would have been a death sentence if they had lost the Declaration of Independence, they were loyal British subjects. And they said, no, enough's enough. We're done. And the Declaration of Independence laid out the what, the why, and what the government should be. And what was formed out of that is one of the most beautiful forms of government the world's ever seen. And it's not a democracy, because a democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. It's mob rule. It's actually tyranny. It's despotism. No, they formed a government that was going to be of the people, by the people, and for the people. But here's the problem we have right now, and why we keep becoming less free every single day. Of the people requires people. We the people, like you, me, all these normal people out there. It requires us to actually do something. It requires us to get involved. And the colonists knew that. And they wrote the Declaration of Independence to declare their independence of Great Britain, because they knew, look, there was lots of good people around back then. They petitioned their government for redress of grievance. They went to Parliament. They went to the House of Commons. and they weren't listened to. But they did fight the good fight, and they did do things the proper way, and they tried to follow the rules. They actually did, if you look back. Because the Revolutionary War didn't just start in 1776. The shot heard around the world. You think of Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts. That was actually in 1775. But it started much, much before that. You can read stuff from the Founding Fathers in the 1760s, all throughout the 1770s. In fact, from start to finish, when they were looking to form this republic, if you can keep it, which literally means you right now, and everybody who's lived in the United States since it was formed, it is actually about a 20-year process or so. But the Founding Fathers knew that that wasn't going to be enough. It wasn't going to be enough just to put things down on a sheet of paper. Because when they say that a government would only be able to operate at the consent of the governed, that meant that the governed, the people, we the people, would have to actually do something about it. And I think what happens so often, and what's been happening for a long time, is obviously people are a flawed being, if you really think about it. And nobody's perfect. I know all of you aren't religious, but if you do read the Bible and have any Christian faith, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And many of the Founding Fathers were Christians, and they did look at religion for their guidance. I don't care what religion you guys are. I'm not the arbiter of your truth, but you have to look at something. You have to have some type of common morals. You have to have something of guidance, or else what do you want to live for? What do you want to fight for? And the Founding Fathers knew that evil always had existed before this country was formed. Evil was existing then, and that it would exist in the future. And they also knew that evil will always prevail, because it always had in the past, and it is right now, when good men do nothing. And you're born with all of the rights in the world, endowed by your Creator. It doesn't matter if you're an American. It doesn't matter what country you live in, but America was supposed to be put there. These United States of America were put there to protect that natural right. That the government could not, of course they couldn't take it away. They were supposed to protect your natural rights from each other, from potential foreign invaders, but also from ourselves. And you grow up here in the land of the free and the home of the brave. And we've had a lot of brave people. We've had a lot of brave people fight in foreign wars to keep despotism out of other countries, to keep despotism out of the shores of this country. We were attacked in World War II at Pearl Harbor, obviously. But at the same time, while we've always been good at going in and fighting these wars, and some we've been not so good at too, quite frankly, especially in recent times, when you look at the former vice president's withdrawal from Afghanistan. But meanwhile, every day we just started becoming less and less free. And we actually, in an attempt, and this is going to be a weird concept, and I'm going to try tonight to explain it how I look at it and how the Founding Fathers looked at it. But it's a concept of, as people strive to be law-abiding citizens. And I'm not encouraging anyone to break any laws here at all whatsoever. But I'm just talking about in the general, the colloquial meaning of to be a good law-abiding citizen. Are you actually law-abiding? Are you actually complicit with criminals? Well, hold on a minute. Because what is the law in the United States? Is the United States Constitution the supreme law of the land? Well, I would argue, yes, of course it is, in the United States of America. It literally says so right here. Article 6 of the United States Constitution. All debts contracted and engagements entered into before the adoption of this Constitution shall be as valid against the United States under this Constitution as under the Confederation. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and treaties made, or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land, and judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. The United States Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Literally, in the United States of America. Now, there's a question I'm going to bring up right in the beginning, and you guys can talk about this. because truth does become treason in the empire of lies, and what is black is white, and white is black, and night is day, and day is night, and stuff can get so flipped around. You could actually be thinking the opposite of what the truth is. Do you guys ever think about that? Like, what is life? What is real? What is the law? Well, as long as we are still the United States of America, and I wonder, are we still the United States of America? And what country do we live in? Because it would be impossible in the United States of America for the Constitution to not be the supreme law of the land. It literally says that. Like, literally says those words. Now, we have a Constitution, and it can be amended, and there's several methods in which it can be, and it's been that way since the founding of this government. 1788, the United States Constitution, right? About 12 years had passed since the Declaration was declared. And we should have lost if you looked at just numbers. But the Americans, the colonists at the time, would-be Americans, they were a good shot. They were well-regulated, well-disciplined. These people have been born with firearms and never put their firearms down and kept shooting them and shooting them and shooting them. And we were much better marksmen than the British. They also had the will to fight. They had something worth fighting for because they looked at each other back then. And I brought this up lately, and they said, hold on. We have one more chance. If we can't win this, we could literally have our children and our children's children and their children live in 1,000 years of darkness. If we can't form this republic right now, we're never going to get to see liberty and freedom again. And they got together, and they had at least some moral ties that bound them together, and they talked. And they won the culture war because there was dueling cultures back then in the 1700s, if you think about it. There really were, the late 1700s. There were people that were still loyal to the crown. There were some people that said, no, we came over to America for a better world, to form our own government. Now, they were going to live under the King of England if he would have just left them alone. But he wouldn't leave them alone, because tyrants never, ever, ever will leave you alone. And there's so many people, so many of you sitting right now are saying to yourself, but I just want to be left alone. Well, that's a perfectly normal want and a perfectly normal desire, and that's what I want too. But here's the problem. It's just not reality. They're never, ever, ever going to leave you alone until you say, no, that's it. Enough's enough. So they wrote that declaration, and they said, the people are on our side and Providence is on our side. And indeed it was. And they won the War of Independence, celebrated on July 4th. 1776, the first shots had been fired a little bit over a year earlier. 12 years later, the ink wasn't even dry yet on the Constitution. And Thomas Jefferson had written a letter when he was abroad and traveling back to the United States. It's known as the Tree of Liberty letter. And in that 12 short years, he hadn't believed that there hadn't been but one armed rebellion. And he had already seen liberty that was starting to. We were starting to lose a little bit of liberty even then. So they got the Constitution written down, right? The first Congress, the United States government was officially born. Now, there were a few things they had taken for granted. They had said, well, there's certain natural rights that, of course, the government's not going to want to tread on, to infringe on. And they didn't put that in the original body of the Constitution, did they? It was actually 3 years later. Started writing it around, 1789, 90. Ratified in 1791, the Bill of Rights, which are the first 10 amendments to the United States Constitution. Now, an amendment of the Constitution is part of the Constitution. It literally is part of it. And that's a process in which this government was set up. But the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And just to make this clear, the first 10 amendments and all other subsequent amendments are part of the law of the land. And the Second Amendment right there, it's pretty darn blunt. And this is literally the supreme law of the land in the United States of America. Not in Great Britain, not in China, not in Russia, not in Ukraine. And apparently not in whatever country we're living in right now, whatever that may be. I don't know. You guys answer me. This is an important conversation. Because the Second Amendment, which is the supreme law of the land, says a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. That's why. The necessity is so that we can live in a free state. And then the what is the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's the law of the land. Well, what happens when you do something that's opposite or contrary to law? I think we could settle on a real quick definition of that would be a crime. So in 1934, a crime was committed by the United States Congress and by the President of the United States, Franklin D. Roosevelt, when they enacted the National Firearms Act, which was complete opposite of shall not be infringed. It promulgated long, lengthy restrictions, gun control, tried to tax and make it where most common people could never even afford certain types of firearms, certain types of military type firearms. And that law still stands today. Now, I just said that law stands today. Why do we even say that law stands today? Shouldn't we say that crime has still gone unpunished today? That crime is still something we're all complicit in today? What do you guys think about that? Now, if I'm missing something here, let me know in the chat, because I get the encouragement to keep doing these from reading all of these good chats and seeing all of you good people in here. Because if the supreme law of the land is the United States Constitution, and you don't have to take my word for it, it literally says that. Article 6, look it up. And I don't mean look it up like you don't believe me. Look this up, because this is something we need to talk about, guys. People say, well, what happens if we have a war? Well, hopefully we don't have a thermonuclear war with what's going on with Russia and Ukraine. But we're in a war right now, guys. Like literally right in the middle of it. And it's a culture war. I literally believe we're in the middle of a cultural civil war in this country right now. There's a good number of people that don't want the United States of America. They hate it. They hate a republic. They want to be sheep that are surrounded by wolves, voting on what's for dinner or lunch or whatever meal it is of the day. I don't know what's wrong with people that they want to do that. But there's clearly people that do want that. Right here, Article 6 of the United States Constitution literally says, shall be the supreme law of the land. And the Second Amendment is in the Constitution, the supreme law of the land. And it says all the judges are to be bound by that. The National Firearms Act, one of the most draconian things you can think about. But that was just the beginning of it, because we now have over 25,000 federal gun control laws and regulations on the books that we call laws. But are they really laws? Because while the Constitution does say that Congress makes law, it does. It says that they can't make any laws that are contrary to the Constitution. And that if a judge finds anything to be contrary to the Constitution, they are to nullify it. Now, very early on in the Supreme Court, the courts actually understood that. In one of the very first Supreme Court cases of consequence, Marbury v. Madison, all laws that are repugnant to the Constitution are void. Null, void, throw them away, get them out, not in the United States of America, because it's the supreme law of the land. Now, where are we right now? We're in 2022. And in some ways, things have drastically changed. And in other ways, everything's just basically stayed the same. Brave people come in and do something for once. From a country, a republic. That's almost 250 years ago now. And there's been very good times in the United States of America. And good times make weak men, don't they? And weak men make bad times, and that's what we're dealing with right now. Now, there's a lot of things. Everything's not completely black and white. A lot of it's just people are too darn lazy to do anything. A lot of it is some people, I guess, aren't intelligent enough to read. But here's the thing. This is something a fourth grader can read. This is something a fourth grader can understand. Shall be the supreme law of the land. The Constitution, that is. Okay. The Constitution also says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So, what would you guys call this? I'm not a lawyer. I don't have all the perfectly big words for this. That's why I get along so well with the United States Constitution. and with the Bill of Rights, right? And the Declaration of Independence, because anyone can understand it. But if somebody's breaking a law, okay, and they're the one actually breaking the law, they would be considered a criminal. I think that's the right word. Now, what about if you didn't actually break the law, but you just stood there? Now, there's been stories of people being brutally attacked in busy downtown urban centers, whereas people were just doing untold sexual things one time to a lady. Everyone just walked by and just kind of looked and said, ooh, that's terrible what they're doing. And they just kind of said, ooh, okay. They just kind of walked by. What do you qualify those people as? That's my question for you. Now, let's just say somebody didn't actually commit the act. Let's shift it to somebody's going to go rob a convenience store. You didn't walk in there and point to whatever at the clerk, but you were the getaway driver. Or maybe you were just sitting back in the back seat keeping a lookout for the cops. Last time I checked, those people actually usually get charged in the crime also. So I want you guys to think about this. And I do have some suggestions, and I do have some answers, I think, that can help get us out of this mess. But I want you to just start thinking about something that might be the complete opposite of how you've lived and thought your whole life. And maybe not, because you guys are pretty smart people, and that's why I enjoy hanging out with you. And I'm really lucky to be here right now. If the supreme law of the land says shall not be infringed, if you infringe, you're now a lawbreaker. Do we agree on that? At least a little bit? I hope so. So if the United States Congress and various presidents, in this case, former vice presidents, are breaking the law, now keep in mind, the president of the United States and Congress works for us. You hire them. So if you're literally paying people salaries and hiring people to break the law, and then you follow them breaking the law, are you a law-abiding citizen? No, I'm being serious. I'm just asking you this question, because I think we need to think about this, because it's not talked about very often, quite frankly. Are you the law-abiding citizen because you oblige by all 26,017, and I made that number up because it might be like 20 more that were promulgated behind the scenes while we're doing this live stream. If you follow all of those, are you just this patriotic, awesome American because you're just following the laws? Are you a law-abiding citizen? Or are you actually not only paying the criminals, paying their salaries, but actually kind of being complicit in it? Or walking by as that lady was getting sexually accosted in Town Square, and people just walked by and went, oh, that's kind of whatever. I've got to go to work now. I've got to go to Starbucks to get my cappuccino. I've got places to be, things to do. No, I'm being dead serious, because I hear all these quote gun channels and Second Amendment channels, even here on YouTube. I'm not going to say their names because I don't want to. Many of them say the law-abiding citizen has the right to keep and bear arms. Well, who is the law-abiding citizen anymore, really? Is it the people following the laws that are contrary, basically crimes against the United States of America? Is that the law-abiding citizens? I don't know for sure. Because the messed up thing is if you break any of these current laws that are going on right now, and I'm not sitting here suggesting that you do, okay? But what I'm saying is, if you're following the laws of the land and being law-abiding, are you some sort of criminal? Or are you complicit in a crime? But if you break any of these 26,000 promulgated gun control laws or regulations, because we don't even have 3 branches of government anymore, we actually have 4, and I'm going to be talking about that as we go on tonight. We have 4 branches of government, and the 4th branch is more powerful than the other 3 combined. And I think you guys know that, especially when we think about bump stocks, pistol braces, and the AFT. Now, I asked this question just a few minutes ago because I don't want this to become circular in nature. I actually would rather it just be thought-provoking and for people to think about. In the United States of America, it says right here, the Constitution and the laws of the United States. So this is a constitution to a very specific country, because pretty much all countries have constitutions, and None of them are going to be word for ours, and most of them aren't even close. But in a country called the United States of America, it says the Constitution shall be, okay, right here, the Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof. So all laws have to be made in pursuance of the Constitution. See that? Shall be the supreme law of the land. So what do you guys think the law really is? Is the law the Constitution, which says shall not be infringed? Or is the law, well, hold on a minute, a 16-inch barrel, you're fine. You're completely law-abiding. 16.00 infinite zeros. But if it's 15.99999 inches, you're a criminal. There's dueling narratives, aren't there? You know, our justice system features Lady Justice. She's a blindfolded lady, which means she can't see who you are. She can't see what color you are. She can't see any of your demographic stereotypes. She doesn't know how much money you make. That's what our legal system's supposed to be based on, right? Our judicial system. Okay. And in one hand, she holds a set of scales, and that's supposed to be the balance, right? That's supposed to be things that are fair. That's supposed to be equal justice under the law. And I don't mean equity or none of this new social world order, because they perverted all of our words of what fair is, what fair is not. What I mean is everybody gets a shot at due process. And then in her other hand, she clutches a sword, meaning she is willing to defend justice with a sword. See, taking up arms is literally the essence of the United States of America. And if we're still living in the country of the United States of America today, it needs to be the essence of it. Or else we're no longer that country. We're just something else that has useless pieces of paper that are written. And I have some quotes that I'm going to read in just a little bit from the Founding Fathers that, again, I don't hear a lot of people reading. I hear a lot about the law-abiding gun owner. I hear a lot about the law-abiding citizen, but what I'm really trying to ask you guys today, I'm trying to encourage a lively conversation and to provoke thought, because what is a law-abiding citizen? The supreme law of the land, or things that are repugnant to the law of the land? AKA, in my opinion, crimes against this country and crimes against the laws of nature and of nature's God. But it's interesting because some of these quotes that talk about what the Founding Fathers thought about the right to keep and bear arms and what it would take for us to remain free. And actually, like the fact that they were like, literally, you can't even read a Founding Fathers quote that talks about keeping and bearing arms where they're not talking about, like, their worst fear was that the United States would actually have a standing army. Did you know that? I'm being dead serious. And I'm going to read some stuff that you can literally, don't take my word for it, because this is like crazy stuff in the reality that we live in now. But it shouldn't be considered crazy stuff. This should be completely normal. This country that was formed so that we would have at least a chance, if the people would keep their government in check, of being able to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. Their worst fear was us ever even having a standing army. And their worst fear was having a military that would be more armed than the regular old people. And what do? They ban bump stocks, which is not a firearm in and of itself. It's a piece of plastic that actually doesn't turn a gun into a machine gun by all definitions of the word. It literally physically doesn't. You know, people say science matters. Trust the science. Trust the facts. It's literally provable with every mathematical equation, every logic and reasoning. Like, this isn't like some hypothetical spiritual debate here. It's literally provable. A bump stock's not a machine gun. But President Trump, yeah, I know someone will give me a thumbs down for saying that, but oh well, I don't care about that as much as just trying to have a decent, honest discussion with you guys. It's President Trump's fault that he said ban them, get rid of them. And what he did is he really forced the AFT to rely on what's called the Chevron deference. And everybody said, but hold on a minute. Trump just did what he had to do. You got to justify him because he's got an R by his name. No, I don't justify. Donald J. Trump is completely repulsive to the Constitution, and so is Brandon, the former vice president, completely and utterly repulsive to the Constitution. And let's go, Brandon. They both are. Virtually all of them are. However, people said, but we're going to win it in court. Well, we should win it in court because it literally says the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. So all judges, this is the supreme law of the land, are bound to the United States Constitution. And when it comes to keeping and bearing arms, it says shall not be infringed. Now, it's literally provable in every way. I mean, literally every way that a bump stock's not a machine gun. But even if it was a machine gun, it says shall not be infringed. And I have some quotes here that I'm going to read in a minute to show the context in the time and period in which this country was founded and shortly thereafter that proves that they didn't want the military to have more guns than the civil people, the citizens, civilians. Oh no, it was the complete opposite. They kept warning time and time and time again against having a standing army, against having a military that would ever be more armed than the people. No, I'm being dead serious because it's actually like really crazy that all of the super patriot, pro-American people that I know run around saying the United States Armed Services, let's get it as big as it can and as powerful as it can. I'm not telling you how to think, but the founding fathers would have vehemently disagreed, actually. So what happened to that? Well, the United States Supreme Court says we're not even going to hear the case. So as far as I know, bump stocks are banned into perpetuity. It goes back to the lower court, which previously the Circuit Court of Appeals had said bump stocks are not machine guns, but then when they heard it en banc, meaning the full panel, which the full panel then vacates and wipes out the 3-judge panel's decision. This was in Michigan, but it was the Federal Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. They came back and wiped out and vacated the 3-judge panel and said, no, actually it is a machine gun. Now, this is kind of an insult to the Constitution. Not kind of, it's definitely an insult to the Constitution. And it's kind of an insult to my intelligence that we're even having this conversation. Because here's the problem. Do you guys agree with me? First of all, bump stocks are not machine guns. Provably not. Okay. So why are they banned permanently? And that's if you agree with the NFA, the National Firearms Act of 1934. But the bigger problem is, why does it even matter if they're machine guns or not? Because even if they were machine guns or are machine guns, although they're not, but even if they were, that shouldn't be a problem either. You know, the founding fathers could have said, the right to keep and bear arms that's less than the military shall be allowed and privileged. They could have written those words. I mean, they certainly knew those words, right? No, they didn't say that. They said shall not be infringed. And then in every darn thing they were saying when they were debating this formation of the country, they warned about us even having a standing permanent army at all. Only if there's an invasion, okay? Only if they needed to literally protect against an actual like known and named threat would we raise an army. And then when the threat was over, it'd be disbanded again. Some of you guys are literally shaking your heads being, that's not possible, blah, blah, blah. I hope all of you who are veterans, which I do appreciate your service. I hope all of you guys, they taught you that in the military, right? They said, hey guys, it's kind of like unconstitutional for us to even exist at all, but we're here anyways. And I'd like to know that because I've never served in the United States military, but every founding father there was. I mean, I've got like dozens of quotes here, and I'm not going to read them all or they would take hours. All they kept warning about is, we can't let us have a standing army. And if there's any type of standing army that's ever more powerful than the civilians, we're going to be in big, big, big trouble. They talked about that quite a bit. And I'm going to go over that stuff in just a little bit. But that's kind of the frame of mind I want us to think about. I also want you to think about that with arm braces. And I'm going to cheer up as this stream goes on, guys. I just wanted you to think about where we're at right now and how turned around and backwards everything is. We also have pistol braces, otherwise known as arm braces. There are literally, some people say as low as there's like 3 to 5 million. Some people say 10 to 20 million. There could be as many as 50 million. I'm going to say there's tens of millions of these pistol braces in this country. And pursuant to the, not in my opinion, but according to the Constitution, the law-breaking, National Firearms Act of 1934, if you have something with a stock on it that's designed, redesigned, made or remade to be fired from the shoulder, and it's less than 26 inches overall length, 26.0 is fine, 29.999, you're a criminal. Or are they the criminal? Because law-abiding would be, shall not be infringed. You see where I keep heading back to this again? It's kind of weird, isn't it? They want to make millions of people potentially felons overnight, or they want to trick you into registering your braced pistol under the National Firearms Act, which then, according to that law, says that you would give up certain liberties. You can't transport it across state lines without filling out something called a Form 5, which can take months of approval. It's called a permission slip. May it please the Queen, I paid my $200 tax. Don't you guys love it? Even in our court system, it's still like we're with the Queen of England. May it please the court, your lawyer will say. Yeah, and then they speak in a bunch of foreign languages you can't understand. Don't get me started on that either. May it please the Crown, I paid my $200 tax stamp. Then you have to say, may it please the Crown, I live in southeastern Michigan. It's like 10, 15 miles to Ohio. May it please the Crown that I can take my rifle that's 29.9999 inches across state lines. Because just imagine this. I'm standing right here and it's legal. But if I put my pinky toe 1 inch over, now it's a felony. Oh, that's literally what the National Firearms Act means, unless you get a permission slip. All right. It also puts it on a registry, so they know exactly what firearms you have. Now, that should be pretty scary because registries have always led to confiscation, literally. And in my opinion, always will lead to confiscation. It's funny because they see these are the most particularly dangerous firearms. Tell us where they are. Oh, that's interesting. Now, you can't even loan an NFA item to a friend unless you're in direct custodianship of it. You can't say, here, dude, borrow my 29.999 infinite 9-inch rifle, right? It's 1/1 billionth of an inch shorter, okay, than 26 inches. You can't loan that to your friend to go hunting. Are you kidding me right now? You also give up certain rights to privacy, to unreasonable searches and seizures, because they have the right to see all of these NFA items and inspect them and examine them at their beck and call. Now, here's what's so messed up. It says right here, I mean, we keep having to go back to this. I mean, it's just the United States Constitution. Do you guys think I'm nuts, or have you guys just asked this question? This is not me being unpatriotic. I'm actually like trying to revere and stand with the United States of America as hard as I can. If this is the supreme law of the land of the United States of America, and everyone in the government tramples all over it every day constantly, and you're actually a criminal if you follow it, what country do we live in right now? And what would you guys like to call it? Now, I'm not saying we're not living in the United States of America either, but it's hard for me to say that we are, because if I follow what this says, the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Okay, check. And as written in the Constitution, it says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So I follow that. I could actually find myself locked up and put in a cage. But how can that be? Because it can't be. Because, guys, there's only one way out of this. There's a time coming here soon. There's several ways out of this. But there's one thing we can start doing right now, and it's really, really important. We're in a civil war. It's called a culture war. Everything's been tread on as hard as it possibly can be, and they're still actually trying to tread on it more. We all have to do something. We all have to become aware. First of all, I think every American, everyone living in the United States of America should actually know what the United States of America is. Is that a good start? Maybe it could be a good idea for everybody to read the whole thing, first of all, but just to read simple sentences for now, like Article 6, like the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Third Amendment, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. Some of this stuff's so easy to read. And I don't think that it's just your right that you're allowed to have the freedom of speech to talk to your friends about these things. I think it's actually even a lot higher extent than that. It's your duty. And that's literally our only way out of this. This is a culture war. And politics is downstream from culture. That's true. It's been proven time and time again. And I think the only way we can win this is having conversations like we're having right now. Because you first have to think about things and realize what the actual problem is before you can even attempt to try to solve it. And then the next thing is actually to just talk to other people, normal people that might be in a way brainwashed, but still have enough of an open mind where they can actually sit and listen a little bit and talk a little bit. And don't make them just listen to you, although you should talk to friends because you have ways to relate to them. Everybody has different ways that they're able to be related to, that they're able to be talked to. And you guys know that with the people that you're the closest to in their lives. There's some people that literally right now don't even know what the law of the land actually is. And I would say virtually nobody in Washington, D.C. or in any of these state legislatures, very, very rarely even know what the law is. And I wonder how long all of us law-abiding gun owners are going to even be able to be law-abiding, even if we want to be. See, this is called Future Felons of America. It's a patch that my friend Mateo designed, and it was available for a while. Right now, I don't have any place to sell merch, but this was available for a while. And I'll see if I can get a few more of these made to get more of these out to you guys. This is a pistol brace. This means there's literally millions and millions and millions. And if I had to guess, probably more than half the people watching right now or on replay, you could become a felon overnight in just a couple months. What are you going to do? I mean, I'm not going to give legal advice because it's like, geez, oh, Pete, if you look at the laws, the National Firearms Act, the Gun Control Act, these thousands and thousands of laws, would I be giving you advice to follow the law, or would I be giving you an advice to commit a crime? And I'm not giving any legal advice at all, because if the Constitution says it's the supreme law of the land, and the Second Amendment says shall not be infringed, okay, and then they say, now we're going to take this from you or you're a criminal. Who's the criminal? No, I'm actually being serious. There's some encouragement here in this stream tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm being dead serious. But we have to think about this. You guys don't have to answer me publicly, but I hope you guys are like thinking about this. And I hope you're having conversations with people. I'm going to read a couple of these generous super chats and tell you about a conversation that I had with a friend just the other day, and just tell you some of the things that inspire me. And I know no set of circumstances are the same, and you guys might not line up with the same person as me to have the same conversation, but I'll give you a few examples of just a couple things, that conversations I had with people recently that you might think about, and maybe have a couple of conversations similar of your own, or at least give you a little bit of hope and inspiration. Can you pop a couple of those chats up there for me, Linda? And I want to thank all of you guys so much, seriously, who support this channel. I spend tons and tons of time doing it. I love doing gun reviews, lots of gun content that I've been posting. I'm going to be posting more again very soon. And doing this is not cheap. And you guys are my sponsors. So I want to thank all the Patreon supporters, channel members, people who are supporters over on Locals. Sometimes you guys send me stuff. And then for all the generous super chats, because I don't do any of those videos where this many hundreds of dollars for a positive review. Never have. I've turned them down. Never have, and I don't ever plan on it. So thank you guys. I really, really appreciate it. And just for all of the encouragement that you guys give me, just knowing that there are still some people out there that get it enough where I don't just go on and be depressed or give up hope. And I want to thank you guys just for being you, you know. Jeremy Rhodes with a super chat. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. He says status of PSA 545 by 39. And I assume you're talking about the steel case. Particular grain weight, I don't know. There is a particular 53 grain I'm thinking of that was called 7N6. That ain't ever coming back in the United States. Again, that was banned. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. They banned it because it was considered armor piercing. So any kind of steel core 545, that ain't going to happen. Because as of right now, they're following the laws that are probably actually crimes if you read the founding documents, if you know what I mean. Because I believe gun control is actually criminal. They're working on producing steel-cased ammo, though, in South Carolina. Yes, I was just in South Carolina. Did a tour start to finish, watching them make AAC ammo, which is a division of PSA. It's quite the process, too, and I filmed every step of the process. That'll give you guys something to look forward to. They're working on getting the steel ammo production going in 2023. There's not an exact date yet, but things are going as scheduled, and there's lots of moving components and pieces to that puzzle. So that's the best answer I can give you right now, but the project has not been forgotten about. They'll just have to set up and move a lot of things in to make that happen. So thanks, man. I appreciate it. Alden Davis with a super chat and a channel member. Thanks, man. I appreciate it, dude. He said G3C rocks. I agree, dude. I do. I've been shooting the GX4 a little bit more lately, but I really like the G3C quite a bit. And I'm actually going to have a video showing a G3C probably in about a month or so. I have something planned. But I'm going to do my Taurus pistol collection soon, and you'll definitely see a couple G3Cs. Right on, man. Guess with the super chat. Thank you. $20. That's generous of you. Says start with constitutional carry. 2A with no questions. Exactly. Literally. Okay. The right to keep, which means own, and bear, which would include carrying them. Right, guess? Yeah, that is the law of the land. We shouldn't need laws that say you now have the right to. You know what I'm saying? You have the right to carry. No, just read the darn Constitution. This is so darn simple. Look, when the government literally wrote the Constitution and actually read it and understood it, America was a very free place to live. The more they've kept not reading it, it's become a lot less free, to the point where in many instances it's basically completely unrecognizable, quite frankly, right? Keep your chin up, girl. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Marco Polo with a super chat and a channel member. Thanks, man. Just give me a little encouragement. I appreciate it, dude. He says, thank you. Great stream. Speaking of another awesome community that I have you guys checked out my locals community yet? I talk about it a lot. I literally do like a whole nother set of content over there. It's free to join. You can actually help physically support the channel as a free member. I'm being serious. I post deals over there that I can't promote on YouTube, and I'm not promoting them now. But some of the frequent places you guys shop, you can literally financially support totally for free. And I found some smoking deals that saves you guys tons of money to help you out. So it's a win-win. I also do a weekly live stream. I'll be over there tomorrow night, Saturday, where I can actually touch guns while I'm live. Here's the thing. We're on YouTube right now. Susan Wiki, right? She's a real beauty. I've had 3 people in the last day. They said, who's Susan Wiki? I'm like, well, she's a real beauty. In a different kind of way. Shout out to all the YouTube moderators and employees who like the show. I know you guys do. Appreciate you tuning in tonight. Over on locals, though, she's not so much. She's not invited, so we can actually hold up guns and not have to worry about some of the stuff that goes over here on YouTube a little bit, right? So I'm going to go through here just for a little bit. And then if we still have some time, I'm open to a little Q&A. So if you star any good chats, Linda, we will read those in just a little bit. Speaking of Linda, in about an hour and a half, happy early anniversary. I'll say happy anniversary. Man, I can't even believe it. What is it, 11 years now? Shout out to my lovely wife. We're celebrating our anniversary tomorrow. We have a beautiful 10-year-old baby girl. I know she's not a baby anymore, but she's still my baby girl. So thank you so much for dealing with me for literally 11 years. Wow, I can't believe you kept me around that long. But you have, and I'm super lucky, and you're the most beautiful, awesome wife in the world, and I love you so much. So shout out to you, Linda. And I don't know if you're in the chat right now or not, but I'm always very excited that you're here. Can you guys believe that? There's a woman out there that's been willing to deal with me this long? Yeah, she's pretty cool. So this is where it gets interesting, because I don't think they're teaching this stuff in schools anymore. Yeah, she's definitely a keeper, Dale. Dale's a smart guy. So tell her good job, not me. You know the saying, your better half? Yeah, that definitely applies to her in probably every way. So we think to ourselves, why do we have a government at all? And I've read this before, but I want to read it again because I don't think it comes up in common parlance, but I think it should. And I'm looking at Federalist Paper 51. Now, it's a long paper written by James Madison. Now, there were the Federalists and Anti-Federalists, and some wanted a little more government, some wanted less government. But even the Federalists, who were looking to form by comparison, don't think now like a strong government, because literally the Federalists then were like what we'd probably call anarchists almost of today, if you know what I mean. Like, having a big government back then would mean like, hold on, we will have like a very limited government to protect people's natural rights. So they talk about why a government, well, there's this fictitious scenario where Madison said we would need no government at all. And then he talks about why we would need a government, right? And here's a quick excerpt from Federalist 51. He says, if men were angels, no government would be necessary. Okay, and I agree with him. If men were literally angels, that would mean everybody. Of course, we wouldn't need a government, but of course, men are not angels. So he continued, if angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary. And that's true too, but of course, the government's not going to be angels. So that's why we have to have both internal and external controls on government. And yes, it's the government that's the problem. The government's become its own beast, its own entity that doesn't listen to anybody, that doesn't care. But why? Why? Well, he talked about the balance here. In framing a government which is to be administered by men over men, the great difficulty lies in this. You must first enable the government to control the governed, and the next place, oblige it to control itself. Now, he's actually not talking in a circle there. He's actually talking in reality. See, how can we have a government of the people and by the people and for the people if you don't have it, if you don't actually focus on the by the people part of it? See, a lot of people like to sit back, I think, and I think this is what's happening a lot. It's happened a lot in the past, and it's still happening right now with so many good people. You can't have a government that's just for the people. No, it actually has to be of the people, by the people, and then it'll be for the people. But when the people just sit there and do nothing, evil will always prevail when good men do nothing. The founding fathers knew it, and I think all of you listening right now know that too. Why would we even be shocked at all that this government is not for the people at all anymore? And of course the government's not for the people. Are you kidding me right now? Of course it's not. And it hasn't been for a long time. Well, that's probably because you can't just pick and choose. See, a lot of people want kind of this free lunch in life where they think they can just cherry pick and say, okay, of the people. That means people actually have to be in government. Okay. Of the people, by the people. By means the people actually have to make the government run at the consent of the governed. That's the hard part. That's the part that takes effort. And that's the part that a lot of people said, well, we'll just skip that part and we'll just skip right to of the people. No, you're not going to have a government of the people unless it's by the people. You actually have to do something. You can't literally just take a seed and plant it in dirt and then hide it from the sun and hide it from the rain and expect it to actually grow into something that's beautiful and nourishing. Oh, of course not. You actually have to do something. For so long, people aren't doing anything. And the internet is part of culture. That's how we all hang out. I wish I was hanging out with you guys in real life, but we can't because we're all over the country, in some cases all over the world. So this is a medium that we can do something on. We also see people in real life, at church, at school, at work, socializing, at barbecues, at picnics, whatever you guys do. Pretty soon it'll be snowmobiling here in Michigan, right? Some of you guys know what I'm talking about. Some of you in the South might not, but it's called snowmobiling when you live in the cold part of the United States. You can talk to people then too, but you actually have to do something to make the government where it's suited as you will see it's most necessary to protecting your security and your liberties, right? The Founding Fathers had a lot of interesting things to say about, we'll just say, the Second Amendment, because some of these quotes were before the Second Amendment was written. Some of them were after, but I'm going to go through a few of them because I went to all the way through high school. I even 2 years at a community college, and I didn't really hear any of these, and I don't really hear people talking about much of these at all. But I think it's very important for us to try to get the United States of America back to actually understand what it was founded on and what the Founding Fathers believed would be a government that would be most suited to protect our natural rights. Because these are not rights that were granted by the government. The Second Amendment wasn't given to you by the government, and the only way the government can take it away is if you let it. Now, it's tough because after 200 and almost 50 years of people just letting, it's hard to take it all back at once. But we have to do something. We have to do something because we can't just sit there like that woman in the park. Like, she was literally in downtown. It was like a park in one of these urban areas, and somebody was doing just nasty stuff that I don't even want to go into great detail on right now because I like to keep this family friendly. And it's up to each individual parent, in my opinion, to let their children know about adult themes when they're ready, right? Not because I don't value the freedom of speech, just because I value parenting, and I think parents are very, very important in how they raise their children's up to them. But they were watching this person do this atrocious thing to this woman. They all walked by and said, "What's going on?" Well, people have been doing the same thing, but just walking around saying, "Oh, they're going to ban this, they're going to ban that." Well, it says shall not be infringed. Who cares what it says? You can't have a government of the people and by the people and for the people unless it's actually by the people. Somebody has to do something. People have to talk. Vote. Run for office yourself if there's no one good to vote for. By the way, the Constitution talks about voting. There's a very, very important election coming. Now, there's still going to be a few people maybe in here tonight, and that's fine. You don't have to agree with everything I say, but you can disagree with the Constitution if you want to, because they literally prescribe voting, that it's going to be, that voting laws will be by state. It says that the president and the vice president, the two people that are running against each other, because it used to be the loser became the vice president. We've changed a lot of that over the years too, by the way. But it literally talks about they can't live in the same state, for example. If we weren't supposed to be a country that would vote, meaning of the people, then why does it talk about voting? Why is it talked about electors? Why do we have an electoral college and a representative republic instead of just a straight democracy? See, some people say just stand on the street and yell, and that's fine under the First Amendment. And you should petition your government for redress of grievance. You should peaceably assemble. You do have the right to freedom of speech and of the press and of religion. Of course you do. And you should go out in the street. We should be having a lot more rallies, by the way. We should be having a whole heck of a lot more rallies. Because if you just sit there and let the First Amendment wash away, you're going to lose that. And we've lost most of that too. But just yelling in the street on what you want to have for your representative republic to elect to the United States House of Representatives, for example, okay? Just yelling in the street and whoever yells louder, that's actually mob rule. And that's straight democracy. And that's if there's more wolves in the room than the sheep and they cast the votes, guess who's for dinner? There's times to get out in the street and yell. That's the First Amendment. And I encourage that, and we should do that. The right to peaceably assemble. Right? But you also have the right to vote, and that's very, very important. If you abdicate your right to vote, then I guess you're just complicit with all of it. You don't believe in the original American founding documents. And that's my stance on voting, guys. And yeah, it is the lesser of two evils, but here's the problem. That whole by the people government sometimes includes that you might have to run. You might have to find the people in your area that you see fit that will protect your security and your liberty. It's actually kind of lazy just to sit back and wait till the final voting day and just sit there and say, well, This one's really bad. This one's less worse. It sucks, so I just won't do it at all. If you find yourself getting to the polls and you don't even know what's going on at all, that's your problem. Do you agree? And I think we should start talking to more people like that and letting them know that you're the problem if you have no idea who's running for your school board, for your county board of commissioners, for your state house, for your state senate, for your United States representative, United States senator, which was never supposed to be voted on by the people. It was supposed to be voted on by the state legislature, but they did amend the Constitution and change that. And since it was a constitutional amendment, that is now part of the law of the land. And for the president of the United States, well, typically the president of the United States and sometimes the former vice president of the United States. Let's go, Brandon. The most popular, and look, since Susan Wiki watches this, I have to say this. NewsGuard certified source, Susan, not only the most popular, but according to Time Magazine, the most fortified of all time. And with that being said, a lot of people said because of how fortified, the most free and fair election of all time, right, Susan? See me, girl? I see the most fair and of all time. A lot of you said, look, dude, I'm not even going to vote anymore. Well, look, if you guys believe it was so free and fair that your vote didn't count, okay? So now you're not going to vote. Now, look, express your opinion. I want you guys to. Where am I wrong here? Now, if you believe it was so fortified and fair and free that it's not even worth your time getting out of bed to do it, are you still not complicit in the problem? It's kind of tough, but I'd like people to at least think about this. I'm not your arbiter of truth. I'm not going to tell you you have to vote. I'm just going to remind you, you do have the right. And I believe you also have the duty to throw off a tyrannical government, and that includes at the ballot box. Okay? If somebody's fortifying a little more than, you know what I mean? They're fortifying their part a little bit by making it even a little more fair and free than what you believe it is for your candidate. To me, that's all the more reason everyone needs to get out and vote. Make it so darn hard for anything that you thought was a little funny to happen that they just either can't do it, or if they go so far with it, they finally just get busted once and for all, if that's what you believe happened. Now, look, I understand why you guys believe all sorts of things like that. That's not, you know what I mean? Look, I get it. I get all of it. The most free and fair and the most fortified of all time. But hold on a minute. Here's me, and I'm just thinking about something practical in life. All right. If there's one or two people coming at me, I defend myself. Okay. But say I get word that there's 10 people coming after me. Wouldn't I call a few more friends and have them come in and do something about it? To me, it's the reason to get out and vote all the more. Now, there's people that claim to be constitutionalists, and they claim to understand what freedom and liberty is, and they say not to vote. I just don't understand that. Because here's the problem. And a lot of people like to dwell in logical fallacies because it's actually easier to get on the internet and dwell in logical fallacies and just be blackpilled and tell everybody everything sucks. Now, I spent the first half of this stream talking about how everything sucks, but now I want to turn it around and talk about some encouragement, what we can actually do. Because it's a logical fallacy to say, oh, well, if I don't vote, then I'm going to somehow make myself more free. Actually, that's the opposite. Because if you could sit there and make this fictional storyland place and say, well, nobody vote at all. If that could, in theory, happen, sure. But since that can't happen, I'm not going to waste another breath on that. Because we only have so many breaths, and then eventually we grow old and die. That's just not true. Somebody's going to vote. So here's the problem with that whole thing. If you could have it where 0 people voted, then sure. Something really weird would happen, but we could maybe reset the country. That ain't going to happen. Come on. The other side's still going to go out and vote. People that are contrary to a republic. People who want to ban every single gun. People that want to, they're going to vote. So imagine this, and this is another fictitious scenario, but imagine you could get it down to where nobody voted in the whole country but one person. And they came in and voted just straight for the most tyrannical people you could think of. that one person would now get to pick who the president is, who the whatever is. So other people are going to vote whether you like it or not. And if you choose to do it, well, now you're no longer saying of the people, including yourself. You're saying of those people. You're basically letting complete strangers pick a government that you will see most effective. Does that make sense? It does to me. Now, here's the thing. You guys understand, we're in a war right now. I've said this before. We're in a culture war. It could get hot at any minute. I don't want it to. I think we need to win this over with culture, even if it did need to get hot eventually. If it hypothetically did, the founding fathers had to win the culture war first. Don't forget that. They didn't just run around all willy-nilly. No, they were a well-regulated militia. They had purpose. They had ties that bound them together. They didn't agree on every little thing, but they had a construct of morals that they could at least reasonably agree upon enough. I'll give you an example. I'm a Christian, and I'm not going to be ashamed of that, and I do not mind professing that publicly. There's probably people in here who are not. But if we can at least agree that we want to be free, then we have somewhere to start. If we can at least agree upon shall not be infringed, well, there's a second thing. If we agree with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, wow, we just agreed on one of the most beautiful things that could possibly exist, didn't we? If we believe we have rights endowed by our Creator, okay, and I believe I was created by God, if I believe I was created by God and that Jesus died for my sins, but you don't believe in that at all, but we still at least agree, you believe that you were created just out of like matter from the ground. I'm sure there's some people who believe that. I'm not going to tell you what to believe. But unless you believe that the former vice president or that even George Washington, unless you believe that any of these people in the United States government created you, you don't believe that, do you? Does anyone believe that? Okay. I don't believe that either. So we could also still agree on that these rights supersede all government. But when you do nothing to try to affect culture, when you do nothing to talk to people in your community, whether it's your online community, your local community, whether it's at the factory that you work at, whether it's at the public school that you work at in the break room, it might be a tough conversation there. It might not be. Everybody's not liberal that works in public schools, although the majority is. It might be at church. It might be on a baseball diamond. It might be in the dugout. Just think of all the different things you do. It might be at the old car show. If you don't do anything and you don't vote and you don't talk about things, then that means you're just fine with the way everything is. In my opinion, you're just fine with the way everything is if you're not doing anything. And I really, really encourage you guys to. I'm going to read what the founding fathers said about a few things, and then I'm going to talk about a couple conversations that I had. Ways you guys can help people and help yourselves at the same time. I want a win-win. I always talk about that on locals. I'm like, look, guys, I'll make a post. It's a win-win. You can help support the channel and save yourself money, and it just literally becomes a win-win. This is no different than that. This is like, it's a win-win. You can help have a republic if you can keep it, and you can help that person be free too. And some people are like way like frustrated right now, and they're wanting to be free. They just don't understand what's going on. So George Washington said, a free people ought not only to be armed, but disciplined. And that was the first annual address to both houses of Congress in 1790. He also said in 1769, in a letter to George Mason. See, I told you guys this all started before 1776, right? That no man should scruple or hesitate a moment to use arms in defense of so valuable a blessing on which all the good and evil of life depends, is clearly my opinion. Some of these are good quotes. Think about this. Thomas Jefferson in 1776, first draft of the Virginia Constitution, said no free man shall ever be disbarred the use of arms. He said in 1787, I prefer dangerous freedom over peaceful slavery. See, they say slavery ended in the United States, but did it really? Because the 13th Amendment outlawed a particular type of slavery, but it actually made it where everybody could be a slave. No, literally, go read the 13th Amendment. It's completely legal to be a slave if you're incarcerated and imprisoned. Thomas Jefferson, in a letter to James Madison, 1787. What country can preserve its liberties if their rulers are not warned from time to time that their people preserve the spirit of resistance? Let them take arms. 1787. The Constitution wasn't even written yet. This is a good one here, because literally we talk about this all the time. People say, well, the cops will save you. Whoever will save you. No, you have to be responsible for your own safety. And when seconds matter, police are usually only minutes away. And they might be able to help out. They might not. They might stand down. They might come just to fill out paperwork of something that's already happened. And we know that. So why do people say only police should have certain types of guns? Only military should have certain types of guns? That the founding fathers didn't really even want to exist. Just let me keep reading before you guys get all mad at me. But this is interesting because we always say this, like, look, laws are literally only affect the law abiding, because criminals by their very nature don't follow laws. And if all guns are outlawed, then I guess all gun owners will become outlaws. Well, this is an early quote where a lot of this comes from. So this was Thomas Jefferson, and he was quoting a commonplace book, quoting the 18th century criminologist Cesare Beccaria. I can't pronounce it very well. But this was a criminologist in the late 1700s that was publishing criminal studies back then. So think about this. The laws that forbid the carrying of arms are laws of such a nature. They disarm only those who are neither inclined nor determined to commit crimes. So they only affect the law-abiding, right? Such laws make things worse for the assaulted and better for the assailants. They serve rather to encourage than to prevent homicides, for an unarmed man may be attacked with greater confidence than an armed man. But they tell you to keep you safe if it just saves one life for the children. We need to ban all these guns. Guys, I'm serious. They strengthen their lead in the Senate here in this next election. Keep or strengthen the Democrat control of the House. They're going to ban guns. It's not they might, whatever. Dude, they're banning stuff right now. Bump stocks, braces, solvent traps. These are things that they're literally banning willy-nilly with the fourth branch of the government that's not part of the checks and balances. It's called the deep state. It's called the bureaucracy, which should not be allowed to exist. But anyone that just doesn't even talk about it or try to do anything to raise awareness to all these atrocities that are being committed against not just these words on a piece of paper, the Constitution, but they're committing atrocities against you. You're the one that's endowed by your Creator with certain unalienable rights. And since, in my opinion, all of these unconstitutional laws that are passed by the government makes the government a criminal, if they outlaw guns from regular civilians, then only the criminals will have guns. If you choose to be law-abiding, then you'll be disarmed. If you choose to abide by the criminal laws that are on the books. What I'm trying to say is you probably can't find any bigger criminal that exists than the United States government, actually. Just think about that. None of these gun control laws affect them. They're always exempted every time. He goes on to say, a strong body makes the mind strong. This is a good one from Jefferson, 1775. A strong body makes the mind strong. As to the species of exercises, I advise the gun. While this gives moderate exercise to the body, it gives boldness, enterprise, and independence to the mind. Games played with the ball and others of that nature are too violent for the body and stamp no character on the mind. Let your gun, therefore, be your constant companion of your walks. We actually worship sports games more and those types of celebrities than, I don't mean you guys literally, I just mean our society right now, than we do the Second Amendment. And it's funny that Thomas Jefferson, he's talking about like playing ball versus, and he said he chooses the gun over playing any type of ball. The Constitution, here's another one from Jefferson in 1824. So this is closer to the end of his life. This is interesting when he starts to talk about 50 years after the Declaration. He says the Constitution of most of our states and the United States assert that all power is inherent in the people, that they may exercise it by themselves. It is their right and duty to at all times be armed. So that was 50 years after this country was formed, and Jefferson was still coming out swinging. Here's another one in 1823. So again, about 50 years later. He says, on every occasion of constitutional interpretation, let us carry ourselves back to the time when the Constitution was adopted. So if you guys wonder why, like, dude, what's wrong with this guy? He's reading this and expects this to mean something? Yeah, I know. This was published in 1788, and it says the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, which means shall not be infringed as the supreme law of the land. I'm actually just getting inspiration from Jefferson here. On every occasion of constitutional interpretation, let us carry ourselves back to the time when the Constitution was adopted, recollect the spirit manifested in the debates, instead of trying to force what meaning may be squeezed out of the text or invent against it. Instead, let us conform to the probable one in which it was passed. There's nothing wrong with it. And this is the thing. We need to make the Constitution normal again. We need to make the United States of America normal again. Like, I have a feeling there's probably people who like left the stream tonight are like, oh my gosh, this guy's like out of his mind. I have to unsub because he said that actually the law of the land may be some of the biggest crimes and atrocities of all time. Well, I mean, I'm not saying I'm smart enough to have thought this, but literally Thomas Jefferson said it himself. Read what the darn thing says. Don't try to squeeze weird interpretations out of it. Don't try to invent stuff against it. And that's literally this quote right here. It just says so much about what's going on right now. Let us carry ourselves back to the time when the Constitution was adopted. Recollect the spirit manifested in the debate. And instead of trying to force what meaning may be squeezed out of the text or invented against it, and that's what's been going on since 1934, anything that is literally anything whatsoever that goes against shall not be infringed is clearly being invented against it. Instead, let us conform to the probable one in which it was passed. Meaning, if they said the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, that's probably what they meant. Look, this is so stupid. But this is all I want to remind you guys of and motivate you of. Like, you'd be so surprised. Just literally talking to normal people, normal friends of yours, family members. Like, you literally have to be stupid to not understand this stuff. And I know you guys aren't stupid. And there's a lot of people out there who are just ignorant. They're not necessarily low intelligence. They just don't know. And you just don't know what you don't know, right? Maybe it actually literally just means what it says. How about that for once? People write thick books. What does shall not be infringed mean? Well, it actually just says what it means right there, right? There's a lot of beauty in that. Okay. And then this is a good one that I've read before, or quoted before because I have it memorized, but it's so true. They that can give up an essential liberty to obtain a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Yeah, it's not completely 100% safe at all times to be free. But at the same time, do you want a little bit of dangerous liberty or very peaceful slavery on your knees? Because it's getting pretty close to that, isn't it, guys? Thank you, Ray. I appreciate it, man. I'm reading this stuff kind of out of the corner of my eye, and I'm going to read every last chat throughout the weekend. This is a good one. Talked about the 13th Amendment a little bit earlier. This is from George Mason, 1788. To disarm the people is the most effectual way to enslave them. George Mason also said, I ask, who are the militia? They consist now of the whole people, except a few public officers. The people are supposed to be the emphasis, with a very few public officers. Now, this is talking about standing armies, and you guys tell me what you think of this. I don't know what the military teaches people in their education, whether you're in officer candidate school or whether you're going through the education that is taught to enlisted men. But this is interesting. It says, this is George Mason, that a well-regulated militia composed of the body of the people trained to arms is the proper, natural, and safe defense of a free state. That standing armies in time of peace should be avoided as dangerous to liberty, and that in all cases the military should be under strict subordination to and governed by the civil power. Well, hold on a minute. Then how can they say certain firearms can be banned? Well, it says shall not be infringed. That should be it. But let's just move on and argue on the contrary. The founding fathers literally warned against this. And I'm going to read a few more here that are exactly what I'm talking about, or what they're talking about. I just want you guys to know this was what the founding fathers were saying. You can't have that. Those are weapons of war. Those are for the military. Well, George Mason, you guys know who that is, I hope. If not, look him up. Very important founding father. He's warning of even having a standing army at all in times of peace. And then in all cases, it should always be under strict subordination to and governed by the civilian power of the civilians. Civilians are supposed to be more well-armed, and the army is supposed to be subordinate to the civilians, according to George Mason. You guys may disagree. I'm just telling you what he said. Here's what Noah Webster said about it, another founding father. Before a standing army can rule, the people must be disarmed, as they are in almost every country in Europe. The supreme power in America cannot enforce unjust laws by the sword because the whole body of the people are armed and constitute a force superior to any band of regular troops. So he basically said, like, before any standing army can rule, meaning like having standing armies that are more well armed than the people, that's like a huge, huge problem. Literally, our government right now is doing every single thing that the founding fathers said is like the hugest warnings and problems, okay? Here's another one, James Madison. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Well, you can kind of tell that that was part of the guidance for the Second Amendment, right? But it continues, a well-regulated militia composed of the body of the people trained to arms is the best and most natural defense of a free country. Here's another quote from him in 1788. The ultimate authority, wherever the derivative may be found, resides in the people alone. That's what I've tried to tell you guys so many weeks on here. Like, you have the power if you want it, if you're willing to do just a little bit. Here's William Pitt. William Pitt the Younger, because there were a couple of them. Necessity is the plea for every infringement of human freedom. It is the argument of tyrants. It is the creed of slaves. It's necessary. We must ban this gun right now. This person allegedly did this, allegedly did that. They've never been able to prove anything. They haven't even actually been able to provide an example to even hint that a bump stock was even used in Vegas, as far as I can tell. But they banned it. It was necessity. The Republican president banned it. Donald Trump did. There you go. Patrick Henry. This is a good one. Guard with jealous attention the public liberty. Suspect everyone who approaches that jewel. Think about that. This is a good one too by Patrick Henry. And this was debates in the several state conventions on the adoption of the federal Constitution. Patrick Henry said, are we at last brought to such humiliating and debasing degradation that we cannot be trusted with arms for our defense? Where is the difference between having our arms in possession or under our direction and having them under the management of Congress? And our defense be the real object of having those arms, in whose hands can they be trusted with more propriety or equal safety to us as in our own hands? Clearly, he's saying the arms are trusted in our hands versus in the hands and arms of Congress. And I'm going to talk about guns in just a few minutes, because I know that reading quotes from founding fathers, who, in my opinion, is the real education that we should be having and the real things that we should be talking about. I understand the reality that we're in right now. And I want to encourage you guys and tell you how tough the battle is. Because, of course, I like to talk about guns. I talk about guns a lot. Now, I can't touch guns on YouTube. Because if I do, they will nuke the stream. But I don't really want to talk about exact guns right now. Because those are just inanimate objects that we're all going to lose or have to hide out with or whatever. If we don't talk about things that really matter, and that's culture and the culture war that we're in right now. And every time, and it never fails, when I talk about these things that are what the root of America is and what's actually going on, I watch the viewers decline on the screen, and less people keep dropping out of the screen as I read more and more Founding Fathers quotes that to me I could sit and read for hours, because it's the only hope and inspiration we have is to realize what it means to be an American. But it also shows me how big the actual problem is in America and how prolific it is. Because people would much rather talk about guns all of the time instead of actually realizing what it's going to take to preserve guns. And to me, this is some of the most important stuff there is. I'm going to read a couple more of these because I think they're really good, and it literally puts into context what this country's actually supposed to be. I think it's impossible to fight for something if you don't know actually what it's supposed to be. And I like this from Representative Albrecht Jerry of Massachusetts. And this was in 1789. He says, "What, sir, is the use of a militia? It is to prevent the establishment of a standing army, the bane of liberty. Whenever governments mean to invade the rights and liberties of the people, they always attempt to destroy the militia in order to raise an army upon their ruins." Wow. That's crazy. Somebody doesn't know me very well. I just saw in the chat, I had to laugh. "I find it offensive to be called sir. I don't care what people's pronouns are." I'm like, "Hey guys, how's it going?" Or maybe I just read that out of context. I saw someone that said, I'm like, "Look, hey guys, how's it going?" And that's even if there's a room full of women. I'm not going to be politically correct. Here's one more. This is from Alexander Hamilton, Federalist number 28. "If circumstances should at any time oblige the government to perform an army of any magnitude, that army can never be formidable to the liberties of the people, while there is a large body of citizens, little, if at all, inferior to them in discipline and the use of arms, who stand ready to defend their own rights and those of their fellow citizens. This appears to me the only substitute that can be devised for a standing army and the best possible security against it, if it should exist." It's just crazy. I could go on, and I should leave a link to these. I'll leave this over on my locals for you guys to check it out, because it's just crazy. Like, literally talking about like how pro Second Amendment the Founding Fathers were even before there was a Second Amendment, as well as after, and how dead set they were that like we can never, ever, ever let there be a standing army. And if there was any type of like permanent military, that we would have to always be like, the people would have to be like so much more powerful and have so much more arms than the military. So like when the Heller decision, do you guys remember that? It said the right to keep and bear arms is an individual right. And certainly things would have gotten a lot worse if it had gone the other way. But was Heller a true victory? I don't know. I'd like you guys to think about that too, because it said, well, the Second Amendment doesn't cover particularly dangerous weapons. And it upheld that the National Firearms Act is still perfectly constitutional, by the way. And they said, well, these are weapons of war. These are only okay for the military. Really? Because even some of these, quote, conservative justices, like the ones that bailed on the bump stock case and didn't overturn it, which is an abdication of duty. Period. End of story. Well, the law of the land clearly says right here that judges are bound by the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. So I don't know. I can see where one might say the Supreme Court justices are criminals because, I don't know. I can see where someone would say that though, right? It's kind of interesting because they keep talking about, and these are like conservative justices that say that, quote, conservative politicians, everyone that calls himself a conservative. We need more military and more police. More military, more police. All these guys were warning about is if we ever had a military that was like standing in times of peace at all, and let alone if it were to dare stand in times of peace, that it better not even be close to as powerful as the citizens. And there's dozens and dozens of more examples of every great founding father that penned the words of our founding documents. And even like the conservative Justice Scalia came in and said, well, it is an individual right, unless it's something that's like particularly dangerous or is a weapon of war, right? It's kind of interesting. It's like there's the real America that they don't tell you about, but these are literally like real people who actually did form this country. And the United States of America has laws of the land. And whatever this is right now is clearly not following those. Now, and this is a country of the people, by the people, and for the people. Like I said earlier, it means, in my opinion, the only way out of this is for more and more people to talk about these things, for more and more people to actually get involved. We do have elections. Elections are the way that the people can be represented and be part of the government, because you can run for office yourself, or you can get with other members of your local community, all the way up through the ranks of your state, and then even federally, and you can decide what people should be there to protect your natural God-given rights. Now, yeah, of course, you find yourself in a situation sometimes. It's like, okay, you're driving down the road. You're either going to hit this enormous pothole and throw your car out of alignment and maybe blow a tire, or you're going to swerve to miss it and hit something oncoming going 55 miles an hour. Well, you're going to take the pothole because it's a little less worse, but it still sucks. But what you could have done, and I know we don't do this, but what you could have done is gone and driven real slowly, or even walked the route and looked ahead to see what was on the road before you got to it and found out you were stuck with like a rock between a rock and a hard place. And I know a lot of you are complaining right now in your heads, or maybe you're typing it here. And I know a lot of your friends and family are thinking this. They're like, but it sucks when I go to vote and it's like, this is the lesser of two evils and it's this one and that one. Sure, but maybe it's because we all didn't do a good enough job when there were primaries and before the primaries. Maybe if you're better than everyone else in your area, you should have run yourself and actually put in the hard work to go out and campaign and let the people know what you would do to protect their security and their liberty, right? That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. That's what the Declaration of Independence says. There's an election coming up. I think it's very important. I think the Constitution talks about elections several times, actually, 3 or 4 times. The Founding Fathers talked about elections. Obviously, they didn't say that they have a monarchy where you're just born into royalty. No, we would have a representative republic, a constitutional republic, where the Constitution will remain the supreme law of the land. And even if you elected people that were contrary to it, those laws wouldn't be allowed to stand because all laws repugnant to the Constitution are null and void, is what a very early Supreme Court case said. Now, here's what's interesting. I have a friend, and we were talking, let's see here. I guess it'd be almost 2 weeks ago now. It was the weekend before I was getting ready to head down south to go to Palmetto State Armory factory tour and the IV 8888 event. And she actually just walked over, hadn't talked to her in a little while, just to be cool, and gave me some of these like really, really high grade, actually, like peanut butter cups. And I don't even eat candy, but these weren't too sweet and they weren't like full of sugar and they were like really premium. So I had a couple and I was actually starving and they were actually really good because I don't like sweets. And we just kind of got talking a little bit. And I don't know. We were talking about how everything sucks. Looking at gas prices. I was like, yeah, the emergency oil reserves are pretty much empty now. There was a false sense of lower gas prices, even though they weren't lower. They were just only double what they were a couple years ago instead of triple, right? But I said, it's going to be going up soon. We'll have to see what OPEC does. Well, now we know OPEC has sided with Putin. We know there's a war between Ukraine and Russia, which I don't care what they say. Semantics. We're involved in it very heavily. In my opinion, many people in the United States want to start World War III, and I don't want that. We're just talking about how messed up everything is. And I don't know how I got on the topic, but I was telling her about, I brought up like David Koresh and the Branch Davidians. And I said, well, his lifestyle probably not my cup of tea, but they could have picked him up while he was jogging. He jogged into town every day. Do you guys remember that? Do you guys even know who I'm talking about? This is what I talk about culture, just talking to people in real life. Well, this friend of mine, she's really, really smart, is like in her mid-20s. She wasn't alive when that happened. They didn't teach that in school. She goes, whoa, start out from the beginning. What are you talking about? I'm like, were they killed all the women and children? Excuse me? Back up. So I backed up and told her the story of what the United States government did to all the innocent women and children in the so-called Branch Davidians in Waco, Texas. Not because she's a dumb person, not because she doesn't care, because she's like in her mid-20s, and like I remember when it actually happened, and then like they kind of just didn't want to talk about it anymore. But that did happen. Yeah, sure, you can trust the government, right? Just look at what happened there. And I said, geez, what's worse, that? Or, I mean, it's hard to say what's worse. There were more dead people with the Branch Davidians than Ruby Ridge, but still, I explained Ruby Ridge. I'm like, you know about that, right? And then I realized she didn't know about that either because she hadn't been born yet. And we talked about that. We talked about how the son, Sammy Weaver, it all started off, let me back up, before his dog and son were shot. A guy named Randy Weaver, he was part of an organization while exercising his First Amendment rights. He had some views that the federal government didn't like. Okay. Well, the First Amendment's also there to protect unpopular speech. Because if it's popular speech that everybody likes, then you wouldn't need a government to protect it, right? Because that's why they're there. They don't grant you your rights. The government's only supposed to exist to protect your rights. So they basically set him up, and he was talked into cutting a little bit off of a barrel of a shotgun. Back to that again. Remember, if your rifle's 26.0 inches, you're totally fine. But if it's 25.99, you're not. Well, in this case, it's 18 inches for the barrel of a shotgun. I don't know what length he sawed it off to, but if he sawed it off even a tenth of an inch below that, he was in trouble. So they did what they do. You're in trouble. Now, Ruby Ridge was literally out in the middle of nowhere, okay? We're talking like Idaho. So he's out in the middle of nowhere, just wanted to be left alone, doing his thing. Whether you agree with his views on life or not, whatever, he had the right to have those views and to have his speech and his freedom of assembly. But they came in on him, the Fed boys did. The strong arm of the law, old Johnny Law. And of course, the family dog greets the Fed boy, and they shoot him. Well, Sammy Weaver, the son, had been out there hunting, right? Or patrolling, whatever he was doing. You hear a couple of versions of the story, but he was armed. Went to raise the gun up, and he was killed by a federal agent. Then kind of a standoff occurred with Randy Weaver holed up in the house with his wife. He had a couple daughters. One of them was a newborn baby, and at a certain point, his wife came out on the porch to surrender the baby. She comes out, baby, and had a baby, okay? And a United States sniper employed by we the people, of the people, by the people, for the people, and the people consented to pay this guy, murderer. He murdered that lady out of cold blood. I'm telling my friend about this, and she's like, no way. Are you serious? Now, come to find out in the end, did he even saw off the shotgun? Probably not, because he was acquitted by a jury of his peers and was found innocent. And the federal government actually had to pay restitution to Randy Weaver. God bless his soul. He did pass away just within the last year, probably of no natural causes, right? He was a little older in age and had some health problems. That little baby that fell down, with on top of her mother's limp body, she's alive now. She's an adult, and I don't know, it appears she's into horses and stuff. I did see her Facebook profile. And look, my friend, she's a really, really beautiful person. Like, she cares about stuff. Like I'm the same way. Like, when I'm out cutting grass, if a toad hops in front of the mower, I'll go out and pick it up and like move it aside. Why? Because yeah, business is business, but like, it doesn't need to die just for the sake of dying. Just like Randy Weaver's wife didn't need to die just because the government wanted to trump up some charges on her husband. So I'm talking to my friend about this, and again, this is a very, very smart person. But again, she's in her mid-20s, and she's like, what are you talking about? She's like, I totally trust you. You wouldn't just make this up. She's like, but I have to look this up. So she was making notes in her phone, and the reason why I'm sharing this story with you guys is this. It doesn't have anything to do with how smart people are and how good people are in a lot of cases. This is where evil prevails when good men do nothing. And if I wouldn't have told her those stories, she wouldn't have even known some of the things. And that was just a couple things. We could talk about things for days, obviously, that our own government's been up to. And I talked about how William Barr was the Attorney General then, and probably, in my opinion, I'll just say, involved in the chain of command of all that back then in the 90s, and then became Attorney General under Trump. And how it's this cabal that just keeps going in circles, and people just sit back and they're ignorant and they're lazy and they're ignorant and they're lazy. And it goes in this circle. And so we talked about that. I had to get back to finishing my lawn, cut my lawn, went down south, came back. Phone rings, and it was her. And we talked on the phone just 2 days ago. She's like, geez, oh, Pete, I don't know how to get out there and necessarily talk publicly like you do. And exactly, she's like, but like, we all have to do something. She's like, I have to do something. What can I do? And we had a talk, and look, it's like, you just have to do something. Now, if you can do the more, the better, great. But literally, for people to sit there and do nothing at all, that's how we find ourselves in the predicament we're in right now. Now, if a long train of abuses and usurpations, yeah, ain't that the truth? When Thomas Jefferson wrote that back then, it feels almost as applicable, if not more applicable now. But I don't mean necessarily that you have to tell your friends about Ruby Ridge or Waco, but I think people should be reminded of that. To understand that it's just so ignorant for people to be running to the government for the solution, when the government has been the problem in so many aspects. And it's getting to the point now where they're the problem in virtually everything that we do. Now, you look at different things in the past. The people have actually stood up in the past and said, no, we're done with it. We're done with this crap. We shall not comply. We just don't care anymore. But it's because they have developed a culture. If you look at prohibition, the 18th Amendment to the United States Constitution prohibited the sales of intoxicating alcohol, right? And they made it where it was a drug and it was illegal. And what did people do? They just went to the underground. They opened speakeasies, and then it made very, very large organized crime appear. When they outlawed liquor, like literally made a constitutional amendment to outlaw alcohol, people were consuming more alcohol than ever before. And we talk about like when guns are outlawed, only outlaws will own guns. It was no different then. When you outlaw alcohol, right? Only criminals will consume alcohol. And they didn't stop consuming alcohol. They said, screw it. And they did it anyways. Well, a couple things happened where they changed their mind. And that's when Roosevelt ran. He ran on the promise he would repeal prohibition. Well, you had the stock market crash and you had the Great Depression around 1930. And times were pretty economic. See, the government, they like to make it where it's never a complete win for the people. I'm not saying drinking's even necessarily a good thing. For me, it's not. I don't drink alcohol at all. But I don't think it should be up for the government to decide with things like that. And I think a lot of Americans have believed that over the years. It's just not for me, if you know what I'm saying. But if you guys are having a cold one or whatever right now, that's fine with me. I'm not going to tell you not to stop. Thanks for the encouragement, Dave Thompson. I appreciate you, man. Now, so you think about that. Well, the government also was looking to raise a little funds, and they're like, well, we can tax this if we make it legal too. And that is part of it, in all fairness. And then they looked at all of the organized crime that was happening. Well, what do they think is going to happen if they ban guns? Just think about this for a minute. Okay, so if all of the law-abiding gun owners, remember how I started this stream? What is truly law-abiding? Following the supreme law of the land or following stuff that's contrary to it? You guys decide that. I just think it's thought-provoking to at least bring it up and kind of just rethink things. And trust me, when you think about it enough, you're like, what's the meaning of life? And that's not bad to think about that sometimes, actually. It's actually really healthy, in my opinion, for the soul and for the brain once in a while. So you go through and you look at the cartels. Okay, the cartel's not just in Mexico anymore. It's like here. And you look at the organized crime and gangs that we already have here right now in the United States. Guns aren't just going to go away if they outlaw them. Trust me on that. What will it do? Well, it'll make a lot of people that want to be law-abiding and follow the crimes against the supreme law of the land by being law-abiding, and they'll give theirs up, no doubt. But it won't reduce any guns at all. And Thomas Jefferson was literally talking about this topic back, about 250 years ago in that quote that I read earlier. It gives the advantage to the assailant, and it gives the disadvantage to the assaulted. Obviously. I mean, look at the Fast and Furious under Holder and Obama, and when the former vice president was the former vice president. Think about that. Running guns into Mexico so they could come back in and commit crimes to try to get the crime statistics up to ban guns. Dude, they banned liquor and then the mob was running the streets, right? I mean, I know there's a lot more to it than that, but I see I'm kind of been going for about an hour and 45 minutes. What got rid of prohibition? Ultimately, yes, they wanted some tax revenue. I get that. But really, people just said, I shall not comply, and they didn't care. And they just went and drank what they wanted anyways. And then they said, by the way, it's actually better because now we don't have to pay the taxes on it. No, I'm being serious. What will happen here if they go and ban all these braces and assault weapon, assault rifle, this and that, these terms that they make up? Assault rifle's a real thing, but not what they call it. They call semi-auto things the wrong thing. But think about it. What would happen? I don't know. I literally don't know. But if it's anything like prohibition with the 18th Amendment, it could be where, all right, all this stuff's banned. People might be like, all right, sweet. I just don't have to pay the tax on it anymore. Maybe. That's what they did during prohibition. Then they hurried up not too much after that with the 21st Amendment, ended up repealing it. We have seen mass noncompliance work before, right? I think it's good to talk about that with friends. I think it's good to remind people. Because, look, we all have our different strengths and our different fortes, but this friend of mine that although she's only in her mid-20s, I'm going to say she's smarter than me overall. There's certainly things that she excels at that I don't. Very smart person. How did she know? How would she know about Ruby Ridge and Waco? Just think about that. You're not even born yet. When's the last time you guys saw that taught about in any school or anywhere? But if you know about it and you feel that your friends should know about it, maybe you might want to tell them just so they understand what's been going on. Maybe if there's a gun control bill that your friends don't know about, maybe it'd be good to talk to them about that a little bit. Now, I'm not going to tell you what you have to do, but it'd probably be a good idea to go out there and just put a little more effort forth, just here and there. You don't have to whip the world in a day. And look, nothing's going to be perfect tomorrow. I want you guys to think that way too. I think it's most prudent to think that way, because if we've had 240, 50 years of people just slacking off and letting stuff pretty much get eroded down to nothing, it'd be unrealistic to think you can put the whole weight of the world on your back alone and fix it all tomorrow. Here's hopefully a little bit of relief. And I mean this as encouragement. You're not going to fix anything by yourself tomorrow. However, if you stop things from being a little less worse, we can at least slow down some of this pandemonium. And then as more people are starting to realize, okay, I don't want it to get worse, then they can start to evolve their way of thinking into wanting things to be better. And then a little better after that. And then a little better and better and better. And yeah, you're a grain of sand. So what? So am I. You're very important to the few people that care about you. And you're very lucky if you have a few people that care about you. And the few people that you care about, you should remind them of that as much as possible so that they know that they have your support and your love and encouragement. Look, we're all this useless grain of sand until you like lump up like even a few hundred of us. It starts to become noticeable in your palm, right? A few thousand of us. Okay, now I need to bring that second hand over here. Okay, do that a few dozen times. It's a bucket full. Okay, few buckets full. You could have a scoop in the front of a front end loader. Throw that scoop in front of a speeding vehicle that's coming to destroy you. It'll stop it in its tracks. I'm serious. There's lots of people in this country. And there's lots of people that aren't evil in this country. But there's also a lot of people who just, I don't know if it's that they're just completely lazy or if they're just intimidated and don't know where to start. Just realize that there's problems in this country right now and that they are coming after our guns. And once they take our guns, then everything else despotic that you could even think of happens faster and faster and faster. Once people realize that, at least they're in the game, right? You might strike out, but you at least have to pick up a bat and go up to the plate before you have a chance. You know what I'm saying? You don't have to be a particularly great speaker. You don't have to be well-worded. In fact, the people that would actually listen to you, don't forget this, probably like you the way you talk, and they like you just the way you are. Now, if you want to get in edgy conversations with people, that's on you, but that can actually be productive sometimes too. You might lose a friend here and there, but usually they'll come back. Sometimes not. But if they don't want to be your friend anymore, that's for you to decide. Sometimes they weren't worth having anyways. You know what I'm saying, right? Sometimes they weren't worth having anyways. But you have to do something. And the friend of mine that I was talking to, again, she's an adult, but just a lot younger than me. She's like, well, I don't do some of the stuff you do, but we all have to do something. And she said, what can I do to help? And we talked about a few things. I mean, there you guys go, you know. My mom called me a little bit earlier. She was looking at her ballot. And she tries to keep up, but she just didn't know quite about all of it. She was wondering about some of the Michigan Supreme Court candidates. She said, look, I know about the governor's race. I know about the attorney general's race. I know about my United States congressman. She actually knows more than most. She said, what about the people on the Supreme Court ballot? And I told her real briefly and told her the main one that I was supporting. You can vote for two, but I think if there's one you really want, I'll vote just for them to give them a little more potency. But that strategy, you guys can decide on your own. Hey, I mean, her and I don't agree on many, many things, but we did actually talk. We talked about what was on the ballot, and that's fine. If you guys are wondering about somebody, call one of your friends that knows. If you're the one that knows, be there to answer that call for somebody that doesn't know. So, yeah. Yeah, DLD After Dark. What's happening, man? He said you only strike out when you swing. Got to take a chance. Yeah, I hope you guys are motivated to do stuff because it's like, you know, you sit and think about this stuff. Russia, Ukraine, gas prices. Look, the whole world, there's all kinds of problems. But things can always get worse. And what happens is they try to mire you in all of this stuff where you forget about some of the core fundamentals. And we lose our free exercise of our right to keep and bear arms because you'll always have the right. The government didn't give it to you. They can't take the right away, but they can take away the free exercise thereof. And people have to start thinking of themselves, well, hold on a minute. I mean, what's going to happen here? You know? Yeah, Joe, I hear you, man. And everybody that we can. Look. Who is the felon? And I'm literally asking you guys this. I'm not asking anyone to break any laws because it's all convoluted. Yes, these unconstitutional laws that are crimes in and of themselves, they'll come arrest you for breaking them. Make no mistake. You guys know how this works. But Who are the felons? The people that have a brace on their pistol? Or are the felons the people that would come to take that property and to take your liberty from you, who are violating the supreme law of the land that says shall not be infringed? Just think about it. Shall not infringe my right to keep and bear arms. That would mean if you did infringe upon, which would be to try to take these or tax them or do anything to infringe or impede, wouldn't that be a high crime itself? Huh. I mean, I hope you guys are throwing some of your opinions in here, and you do not have to say your opinions publicly. Think to yourself. Or you guys, hopefully you guys had a lively discussion, because when I get talking about this kind of stuff, and I sometimes just kind of stay focused on my thought process so I don't get too distracted, but I know you guys are going to have some good chat, and it's definitely something to at least think about. And I'm really thinking about this a lot. And I know I'd sound really smart if I just could blink my fingers and have like a perfect answer. But I'm just telling you guys I'm thinking about it a lot. What is a law-abiding citizen? I'm in pretty deep thought about it. And there's some things that have already been happening and are going to continue to be right in our face very, very soon for you to think about that, because look, we have a process in our country where we can amend the Constitution. I haven't seen an amendment that repeals Article 6. Have you guys? Well, right here. Under the authority of the United States, so that's a country, right? Shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. That's the law of the United States of America. And the Second Amendment is part of the Constitution, and it says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, I fill out a 4473 every time I buy a gun from a gun shop. I do. I'm not going to say all of this is on my back. But if there's 100 million gun owners, I'll put 100 millionth of it on my back, and maybe. And I'm just thinking about this. Am I being a criminal every time I fill out that form? Now, I know in the current reality we live in, no, I'm a criminal if I don't. Ask Hunter Biden. By the way, where's Hunter? He might be indicted soon for lying on a 4473. Now, every time I go to a gun shop, I answer it completely truthfully. And I'm being law-abiding on these laws that are, quote, on the books. But if you look at the supreme law of the land, which says it's supreme, and it says shall not be infringed, am I actually like 1/100 millionth complacent in the crime? The crime being the law that was against the law that was written? I'm just asking you guys to think about it. I've been thinking about that lately and asking myself that question. Am I actually, hold on a minute. So I fill out the 4473 form to buy a gun, and I answer it truthfully to be a law-abiding citizen. But what law am I following? Because this law here says it's supreme, and it says shall not be infringed. Now, you can amend the Constitution if you want, but there hasn't been any amendments to repeal the Second Amendment. And there's been nothing to repeal the Supremacy Clause, meaning the Constitution remains supreme. It's a thought-provoking. I hate to say the word circular because that sounds hopeless, but I don't know. Where's Hunter? He's over there on the board of Burisma. Ukraine. Huh. What do you guys think? There's many good people that live in Ukraine. There really are. I'm sure there are. I don't know anyone personally. And this has been my stance from the very beginning, guys, and it's not changed at all, actually. Probably ain't gonna at this point. Very, very good people that live in Ukraine, and on certain levels, I inherently feel bad for those people, that they are living in and amongst war. I also believe there's many, many fine people that live in Russia. And I feel bad for those people too. Do I like Putin? I don't know him, but probably not. Do I like Zelensky? Don't know him? Probably not. But I do wonder, why is the United States over there so much? Why is NATO over there so much? Are they truly worried about protecting the Ukrainian people? Because I do worry about the individual regular people that live there, people that want to be free, people who love their kids just as much as you do. Yeah. Same thing with people of Russia. I care about them. But do you think the United States government really cares about the people of Ukraine, like their version of we the people, the regular old, the plebes, the whatevers? I don't know. Or are they trying to protect a honey hole where it seems like every politician just happens to have some kind of lucrative financials? Where's Hunter? He's on the board of Burisma. Oh, we could go on both sides of the aisle of all of the different royalty within the ranks of the United States House of Representatives, Senate, the office of the former vice president. Do you remember that? There was a prosecutor over in Ukraine, and he was prosecuting the company that Hunter was working for. And Biden said, I told him, you fire the prosecutor, you're not getting the $1 billion. Now, he said that, Susan. He literally said it like right on the air. This is not like a rumor or a debate. He said, fire the prosecutor, you're not. Now, hold on a minute. What world are we living in? We're a country called the Ukraine. That's what I call it. They call it many things. I call it the Ukraine. And there's a prosecutor that's looking into purported alleged criminal activity. And it just so happens to be that when the former vice president was the vice president, right, that he said, fire the prosecutor that's investigating my boy's company. I mean, something like that. I don't know. Here's my stance on Ukraine, because sometimes people ask me about it. Or you could care less, and that's fine. Same thing it's always been. America should stay the heck out of it. We got nothing to do with it. You want to play world's policeman when you can't even protect people's liberties here at home? I mean, I feel bad for people in Ukraine, sure. I'm a human being, and I tend to be on the compassionate side, quite frankly. I feel bad for the people of Russia. I feel bad for many people, but what about the people here in the United States? I don't want social welfare. I just want the boot of the federal government to be taken off my neck a little bit. Don't you guys? It's hard to pay bills right now. Wouldn't be able to keep this YouTube channel going if it wasn't for all of you and how darn generous you all are. And I truly appreciate that. But to be over in another war, look, people are always going to be at war somewhere, and they're always going to be fighting about something. I wish they didn't have to, but it's just the way it is. Remember, if men were angels, we'd need no government at all. But men are not angels. They're always going to fight. They always have been fighting, and they always will. And we just see our taxes going up and up and up. And our inflation keeps going up and up and up. And gas prices and groceries and real estate and firearms and ammunition and just... Look, in a certain way, like on an intrinsic level, like on a case-by-case basis, I care about these people a lot. And I feel really bad about what's going on over there. But on the big scope of things, as far as us being Uncle Sugar and the world's policeman and the board of Burisma and fire the prosecutor, I could care less what's going on over there right now. And I think by the United States getting more and more involved is actually making the world less safe. And that's my opinion on it. And I'm not happy about it, to be honest with you. All right, Linda, I know it's getting late for you, and I really appreciate you staying up this late. Did I have some more chats that you had started, if you're still awake? Rudy Fenney with a generous super chat. Thanks, man. I appreciate you, dude. And a channel member. He says, hello, everyone. Good to see y'all here. Well, good to see you. He says, if you haven't already, do us a favor and smash the thumbs up, which does help. It takes 2 seconds. It's called the algorithm. Maybe a few more people will see this later on. So thanks, man. I appreciate it. And he said, let's go, Brandon. Another super chat from Rudy. Thanks, dude. I really appreciate you, man. He said, happy anniversary. My wife and I have been married 15 years today. Well, happy anniversary to you, Rudy. Are you serious? Just one day off? Heck yeah, man. Happy anniversary, Rudy. I'm sure your wife's a very lucky lady, and I'm sure you're very lucky yourself. Jesse Meek, thanks for the generous super chat, dude. I appreciate it, man. Sounds like you're not here anymore, but if you listen to the replay, I appreciate it. He says, can't stick around. Have to teach a rape prevention class in the morning. Wow, okay. He says, I've enjoyed your vids from your PSA visit. Cool, man. He says, okay, Liberty Doll went live for the first time in a while. You should see the video. It's a good one. Good night. I will definitely check it out and probably listen to it when I'm mowing grass later this weekend. Thanks, man. I appreciate you supporting the channel. DLD After Dark with a super chat. Thanks, dude. I appreciate you, man. He said, much love and respect for what you do. And likewise, dude. Like I've always said about you, man, you have the best intentions and you're a legit channel. You're a legit dude, and I really appreciate you, man. Shout out to the DLD After Dark channel. He's someone also who just actually cares about people, and it's important. I think we just, if we care about people and care about our country, that's the first step. That's the hope I think we have for winning this culture war. What do you guys think? I don't know. I've been getting some pretty good responses from people in real life. As soon as I stay away from the news and stay away from all the craziness, when I'm talking to real people, I'm actually getting some good encouragement. Are you guys? Let me know. Member super chat. Thank you. Channel members is a little perk that you get a super chat ever so often. From Ross77, channel member says, happy anniversary. Well, thanks, Ross. I appreciate you, man. I'm sure you guys had tons of gun questions, and I'll get on another stream and talk about guns soon the best I can. But if you guys want to, come over and watch my local stream tomorrow night. You can watch it for free. As a perk, the supporters get to interact in the chat, and we'll talk about all kinds of guns over there, you know. Caltechy, thanks for being a channel supporter, man. Channel member, he says, did you get to fire the 300 blackout jackal at PSA? I did not. I fired the 223-556 one earlier this spring, and that video is on my channel, but I did not. I actually brought a couple guns that I already owned down to PSA and fired them on their range in their retail store that's down the street from their headquarters. Why? Because I wanted you guys to see actual guns that I currently own, so you guys can see the shots on them, and then as it progresses and see how it's going. Did you have any other ones that were good questions that you needed to pop up there, Linda, that people had? If you need to go to bed, just let me know. And I haven't seen you in the chat all night, girl. Where have you been? Trying to give a shout out to my beautiful wife and throw her up there on the screen, but she's being bashful. Where are you hiding at, darling? I was just going to I want to give her a shout out. It's our anniversary in like, I don't know, about 14 minutes. Can't believe it, but geez, has it been 11 years? Is that right? Time flies. No problem, DLD. Man, I appreciate you, dude, and all of your viewers. Same thing. A lot of which are, you know, the same people, right? All right. I've been on for just a little bit over 2 hours. I know you guys were kind of like dying to talk about guns pretty much all night. If you guys want to throw in a couple real quick questions, I can hang around for a minute. If you need to go to bed, Linda, you can go to bed. You guys probably wonder who I'm talking to. Linda's in the StreamYard program with me, just like remotely, if you know what I'm talking about. She's sitting in the behind the scenes, the high-end, high-roller room, if you will. And she helps me keep track of like starring and pinning different stuff to the screen. Somebody asked me one time, who are you looking at? Who are you talking to? I'm like, well, she's sitting in the private little VIP room. Is that a good way to look at it? The back room of StreamYard here. All right, let's see here. Favorite underfolder. Oh, geez. Well, since PSA, I got to tease it. I was the first guy like anywhere, I think, on YouTube, like whatsoever. I showed those spikers that they're making. People ask, yeah, they are the correct barrel journal and correct thickness of receiver, and you should be able to use genuine Chinese parts on them. So They actually made them to the Chinese spec. So in the spirit of that, since PSA is getting ready to make a big buzz with those, they're made in Columbia, South Carolina, but they're the Chi-Com Spikers. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, go look at my video shorts. It's pretty cool. I literally was watching those. Those were like the first ones that were made. I don't mean like right as they were being made, but like, yeah, the production manager of the whole factory that makes their AKs was like hand buffing and polishing the metal before it went to get the coating on it, because like they were literally like the very first ones. And that cart came out a few hours later, and I was like, dude, I'm just literally going to grab this. And PSA was awesome enough to let you guys in on the first sneak peek of those. So with that said, I'm going to talk about an old rare Chinese, my double folder. So it's called a double folder because it has an underfolding stock and it has the folding spike bayonet both. And that particular one was called a movie gun because it was imported by RAI of California, and they were a movie prop house. And that's actually the very first Kalashnikovs that were brought into the U.S. were for the movie industry. And I have one of those. So what gun did I shoot at PSA that I would like to own? Well, at the Iraq veteran event, which was just like a couple days after that, I shot some Holy Grail guns, and I'm slowly but surely sharing them all with you via YouTube Shorts. Yes, I'm going to put real videos up soon, but for machine guns, Susan likes them to be in the shorts better, and I thought you guys might just like little blurbs of that. So, but at PSA, no, dude, hopefully this isn't disappointing, but I shot 2 PSA guns that I already own just because I like thought it'd be more legit. So you guys could see like my real life guns that I bought with my own money from them. And I did the initial unboxing and review at PSA of a PSA gun I bought. They shipped it to Michigan. I kept it in the box for a couple weeks, took it down there, opened it up and shot it. Because I think reviews like that might be more useful for you guys. So like a gun that I literally bought with my own money like you, and let's see how it goes. So there you go. Most of what I was doing was for you guys. I could have shot as much as I wanted, and they were very accommodating. I went there for you guys and just focused on footage of stuff that I thought you would look cool, rather than me prioritizing shooting a bunch of cool guns, to be honest. What's happening, RJL? Said it's been a while. What's up, man? What did Linda say here? She said something. Some would call it a producer. Yeah, some would call it that, but I'm not. Yeah, I'm not just some people. There you go. There's my beautiful bride right there. I knew she was lurking somewhere. I started about 9:30 Eastern time, man. You can come back, watch the replay. Too many choices. Jamie Elkins, what's happening, Jamie? Glock AR-15, what's your thoughts? Geez, I might get some people mad for saying this. I couldn't care less about it. You want my honest answer, right, Jamie? No, it's cool. If you guys are excited about it, then awesome. I personally really don't care about it at all because from what I understand, I don't even think civilians are going to even be allowed to have access to it in the United States. And we probably already have about 365 brands of ARs in this country and stuff. And here's the thing. If they were going to use their own furniture on it, maybe that might... It looks like it has mostly Magpul furniture. I don't know. I know there's tons of Glock fans in the house, but really? So hold on a minute. It's the year 2022, and you're like, all right, we're finally going to let people see sneak peeks of a picture of an AR that's for like military and law enforcement only or something? Dude, there were like 350 companies that made ARs in like 2012. There were another 350 that made them in 2013. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. There's been 350 new AR companies every year for the past 10 years, and there's still only 350 because 99% go out of business. I don't like to see businesses fail. I'm just being very candid with you all. I really don't care that Glock came out with an AR-15. No, and I'm not ripping on you at all, man. I wasn't even implying that. I was just giving you literally my honest answer. I don't care, and they were about 10 years late, in my opinion, for me to have any interest in it at all. But you know what I'm saying? And my friend DLD right here, you are a Glock fan, but you know what I'm saying, dude? Like, really? In 2022, you came out with an AR and it uses mag pull furniture? Like, I mean, look, even if they had like done something with it to make it where I hated it, like I was still, other people would have liked it though, right? But they didn't really. It's just kind of like pedestrian. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion. In my opinion. I know, when it's like a regular AR-15, right? Terry Brown, he's saying, yeah, if it took Glock mags and was like a regular old, that would be a little different story. But there's about 1,000 companies that make those too. All right, I'm just gonna take a look at a couple more chats here. I have a Cougar SAR 1 as well, actually. It's a Stava M85. Cool. I'm looking at. I had a good stream last week with Right to Bear. I'm popping up Moderator Bot here. Giving Moderator Bot a shout out. I was gonna say him, her, Z. Yeah, I'm not gonna pronoun a bot. But yeah, we had a good stream. Right to Bear has some awesome policies now, by the way. And you can save 10% with code 28EDU. So check the description there. Go back and watch that stream if you guys want to know a little bit more about it. I am looking here. Dude, I posted some crazy deals on locals. Did you guys see that? I posted an underfolder and dagger combo deal that was like way too good to be true. A couple hours ago, it was gone in like 25 minutes, but I got right on it. What's happening, Ron Wayne? How you doing, man? What's up, Flood Munitions? Band talk. Yeah, I shot Glock needs a belt fed. I did shoot an MG34 belt fed. I posted that. I shot some cool guns at the Iraq veteran event. Shot the GX4 XL quite a bit. Did the same thing. Took my GX4 XL down there and shot it at the tourist booth. They were cool. They hooked me up with some ammo, so that was a big help to the channel. But same one that I can't show here, but I showed it on a local stream just like 2 days ago. So you guys can see more rounds from the same gun. And I am going to have that video up soon with first shots here in Michigan and in Georgia with my GX4 XL, which is an awesome pistol. If you guys want to know more about that, there was actually just a price drop from a place that I can't promote here, but as soon as this stream's over, I'm going to go post it over on Locals. And that's another site that's censorship free, and I can actually talk about stuff, and it can be a win-win. DB Cooper, there are other pistols other than Glock. Blasphemy. I know, dude. Like, pretty big Taurus fan, and overall, it's still my favorite as far as pistols. Seriously. Liking the dagger quite a bit, though, especially the hinge trigger. No, like literally, especially the trigger. Very nice trigger for an out-of-the-box gun. What's happening, Gort? He said in closing, if a law is unjust, a man is not only right to disobey it, he's obligated to do so. I just wanted to bring up that thought earlier today. It's like, dude, are we law-abiding when we abide by something that's like a crime against the Constitution? Just think about it. Talk to your friends about it. We have to realize what's actually going on here, and then we need to get off our butts a little bit and win this culture war. And make great friends along the way and strengthen friendships and have a good time. Don't forget about that. You know what I'm saying? I talked to you about a couple conversations I've had recently, and it didn't just make me feel good about like just throwing 1 gram of sand in the pile, which is important, but also I tend to have a good time talking to people about this stuff. Out of nowhere, look at this. Coming out of the backstretch. What's up, Terry Brown? I meant to click on this one here. And yes, I agree with you, Terry. The dagger's a great pistol. Where have you been tonight? Mateo, he comes out of the backstretch. Hold on a minute here. I still like my Taurus pistols a little better, dude. He said Gen 5 Master Race, making 40. Suck, say again. I see how he spelled that. I haven't seen this guy in here all night. Have you been in here tonight, Mateo? Literally, you don't see him all night and he comes in. Gen 5 Glock Master Race. I don't know. I'll take my G3C. What do you guys think? I think the dagger is an excellent value. Some of those bundles that I've been putting up over on locals, are you kidding me right now? It was an underfolder and like an RMR cut dagger with threaded barrel. I'm like, I watched the build and all that stuff last week, guys. Like literally. And somebody asked me this. I don't know if he's watching now. They're like, when you say build, do you mean assemble? I'm like, no, no, no. I mean like watching forgings being milled on CNC machines, watching small parts being made. I watched the finishing, like metal finishing, assembling, QC, test firing. I mean, like all of it. Like they actually literally make. Like make in every way you could describe it. Of course, if your AR comes with Magpul furniture, they don't make. They get that in, obviously, but no, like they literally actually make, like from scratch. It's crazy. I watched daggers getting made, rock pistols. Those are both in the same facility. Sat down and did a video with the manager over the whole rock and dagger division of PSA. See, PSA isn't just one place, just so you guys know. There's many different facilities that all coordinate together and warehouse. And then there's the retail locations, of course, that some of you guys are familiar with. He's been cleaning, but you had to come out and get the Glock. No, I know you love the Gen 5. We've talked about it quite a bit. I may have to, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah, don't base the Taurus G series and newer. That's when I got into Taurus, guys. Okay. There's some older models. Yeah, the old Millennium in some cases, the old PT 145 or whatever. I get it. There were some problems. But I'm saying since I've been into Taurus, they've all been winners for me. Can you guys see the collection back there a little bit? There. So I was doing some cleaning earlier. There's the tower, see, of Tauruses. Now I was doing some cleaning earlier. Let me move over this way just a little bit. One more Taurus box. Somehow it evaded the pile. So I have one more to add. And of all guns, that's my Taurus G2C. One of my G2Cs. All right, I'm getting ready to wrap it up in just 1 second here. I'm glad you liked my videos for the trip. I know I'm throwing like a short video up every day, and if it's too much, sorry. I don't consider it rude to post one a day right now because I wanted to show you guys a bunch of cool guns that you just might like to see because they're shorts. Like the longest one can't be over like 60 seconds, and many of them are like 10, 11 seconds. So I just been wanting to show you guys as much as I can. Yeah, the funny thing is a lot of the rural kings are in the actual city. Like, I'm too rural to be near a rural king, if you know what I mean. If you're really rural, there's no rural king near you. I'm being serious. Chime in, guys. I don't know. Thanks, Timothy McGee. I appreciate it. And I've posted quite a bit of stuff at locals, too. Like, when I was over there streaming live Friday, from the porch of the house I was running in South Carolina, but it was like literally like minutes from the Georgia border. I was down there hanging out with you guys, and I also streamed on locals that same weekend. So there's like literally twice the content. I post just as much on locals as I do here because it's censorship free and I don't have to worry about algorithms. You guys are just over there doing your thing, and there's so many of you that are supporting per month over there so that I can stream, but also supporting for totally free. So if there's any of you guys sitting there being like, man, I wish I could have left this guy a super chat, but I just can't afford to. You can literally financially support the channel for free over on locals. I can't promote certain sites here, but I can and I do over there. And you can just do your normal shopping you already do. It takes 5-10 seconds. Just click on my link, go do your shopping. You're financially being my sponsor without you spending one penny. And I also try to find you guys some awesome deals to save you some money too. So that's why I always want it to be a win-win. And I'm not trying to overly promote it, but people literally do ask me this about every week. They're like, dude, I like literally don't even have like $5 or I'd love to send it to you. Is there anything I can do? I'm like, well, do you buy gun stuff online? They're like, of course, every day. Go over to locals. You can literally help financially support totally for free and offer moral support just by being there and being yourself. All right, I'm getting ready to get off. It's getting a little bit late. Take it easy, DLD. Good night, man. All right, I don't see any more actual questions. Need to start a second tower, Ross says. Yeah, call it Twin Taurus. Someone was asking about the injection molding process for AR handles. They use glass-filled nylon. I'd like to see that. I don't know what you mean by handle. If it's charging handle, that's aluminum. If it's carry handle, that's aluminum. I don't know, man. I maybe someone else can help Mark if you would. I actually don't know what an AR handle is, apparently. I guess. But we all have different terminologies for stuff. So I'm just not quite, it's not quite connecting in my brain, to be honest with you. The only two handles I can think of are aluminum. Nice to see you, Bill Alexander. What's happening, man? Yeah, thanks to all the Patriots hanging out in here right now. Yeah, not only is the NFA unconstitutional, but I've been bringing up the question that's nice to think about is it a crime in and of itself that it exists? Let's see here. Okay, speaking of A1s, if it's a carry handle like an A1, that's going to be aluminum. That's all part of a big forging. So the forging for, I can show you guys a forging, okay? This is literally a forging. This is not even a firearms part. This is literally a forging, a paperweight, okay? This is signed by Eric at Iraq Veteran. This is a forging, okay? The forging that an A1 or A2 upper would be made out of is like that much bigger, and they go through and mill out all of that stuff, and they do mill it on site, okay? And yeah, so speaking of which, PSA, or they're technically sister companies, but it's easier to say PSA bought Harrington and Richardson. I sat down and did a really nice conversational video with the person that's running Harrington and Richardson at PSA. And they have the retro M16A1 lowers, the retro M16A1 uppers, barrels, and other things. And he talks all about the philosophy of where that company and brand is heading, the products they have, stuff that they may be making in the future, that they may not be making in the future. And it's actually pretty cool. So if you guys are into all that retro stuff. And I just bought a barrel with my own money, a Harrington and Richardson 20-inch M16A1 pencil profile, right? Forged, chrome line, 1 in 12 twist for the 55 grain, optimized for the 55 grain projectile, or lighter technically too, right? And yes, I am definitely interested in that product line if you guys are into retro. Now, I have a Colt M16A1 parts kit that has a crap barrel on it right now. It's got the triangle handguards. It's a pencil profile, but it's a crap barrel. And I just have an Anderson AR-15 lower receiver. Like, that doesn't fit at all. So I am going to get a Harrington and Richardson lower to put on there and one of their barrels. So you guys will get to see some behind-the-scenes info on that. And then you'll be able to see as I transition some of those parts into that original parts kit gun. And you guys can kind of decide to see what you think about it. Let's see. What's happening, We the People? How's it going, man? Thanks for being a channel supporter. Probably see you on locals over the weekend, right? Mark says, okay, the pistol grip handle. Okay, gotcha, man. See, I had carry handle in my head because I am thinking a lot about those retro M16A1 because I literally spent time in the Harrington and Richardson portion of the facility at PSA, and it was cool. You know, I'm into that retro stuff. The pistol grips, they're not making the pistol grips. Like, a lot of them are Magpul, so they're going to be bringing those in and purchasing them from them, for example. Let's see here. Good night, Harry Gremley. Nice to see you, man. You have a good weekend too, and thanks for the anniversary wishes. I appreciate it, man. You're always in here, and I always read afterwards. Harry's always reminding you guys to give the thumbs up, and just an all-around good dude, if I haven't told you that lately. I appreciate you. Do I have every G series variant out? Kind of, almost. I have the GX4XL non-Toro, the non-optics cut. I'm working on trying to get a slide, so I guess not quite. I mean, I'm pretty well represented, but I don't have the Toro GX4XL yet. But I am, as soon as this is done, I need to write myself a note so I don't forget. I do know of a good deal. It was just literally a price drop today, in fact, on the GX4XL and the Toro. So I'm going to put that on locals. As soon as I'm done here, you guys can check that in a few minutes or tonight. And it's from a reputable place that I can't name or promote here because Susan's loved the stream so much tonight. I just don't want to ruin it for her. Okay. All right. I'm going to literally answer like 2 more and I am out of here. And then this stupid thing that you hover up in Windows pops up and okay. I'm trying to see here. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with an Anderson lower, by the way. I like Anderson lowers, and they're fine. It's just if you have an original M16A1 parts kit, a modern AR lower isn't the correct lower for the rest of the build. Because I have the original Vietnam era upper, and it's just, it doesn't look right with it. That's all I'm saying, literally. So, yeah, I don't want anybody to think I'm saying anything against, their budget. I really like them. I still like them. I like the PSA stripped lowers. It's just for the particular build that I'm doing, it kind of looks like hot garbage on it because it's a shame to have a nice original, you know what I'm talking about, M16A1 carry handle upper, the Bakelite plastic A1 buttstock, the triangle handguards, and then to have any AR-15 lower looks like crap. That's all I meant by that. Nothing against the old poverty pony, trust me. I've been using those for a long time, and I'm totally fine with them. Yes, I do keep extra food and extra water. Maybe not on the extreme end of things. I don't mean that as a put down. I probably don't have as much preps as some people. I might have more guns than that person, but less water. You know, I don't know. But I do always keep some stored, food and water, and live near water and have some ways to purify it. So yes, I do think about that. Oh geez, what am I, dude? I'm not a gun shop owner. I'm a landscaper and cut lawns and stuff for a living. I do this channel for fun and to try to inspire a little bit and talk about guns too, because I like all of that. And this channel is funded by my supporters. I'm not a gun shop. So you guys are my sponsors, and I'm not selling guns. I just literally am into guns. Been into them since 1994, right? Make sure you guys are hitting that bell. Like Too Many Choices said, hit the bell. Sometimes you have to unring it and hit it again because they turn it off. Does Palmetto have the beautiful wood AK furniture for sale alone? Yes. In most cases, yes, they do. I need to probably do another stream here coming up, just like Q&A about the PSA trip. You guys have lots of stuff you want to know about it. I don't know. Maybe I'll pop up and do a surprise one. Thank you, Angry Fat Boy 1776, for becoming a channel member. I appreciate it, dude. Thank you. And thank you to all of you who are channel members. Like I said, Patreon, you guys supporting on locals. I really do appreciate all of you guys. It costs a lot of money to do this. You guys know that. Like, gun stuff's super expensive. And all the time I spend, but you guys chip in just enough to keep it going. I saw RPKs getting built and posted some stuff on those too. Oh yeah. All right, guys. I really appreciate you guys being here. There he is. I knew I was trying to get out of here in time. Dang nabbit, he caught me. Yeah, I'm doing a 2.5 hour stream because I was ranting about God-given rights and the Constitution and the Founding Fathers. And then I realized these guys all had a bunch of questions about my PSA tour I did and wanted to know about the Iraq veteran event. So I wanted to talk about stuff like the Constitution a little bit more tonight. But then I realized I was in the mood to talk about this. So how about this? I'll be over on Locals tomorrow night, guys, for an hour talking about guns. And I don't know. Maybe I'll find time soon to come back on here and do a ask me any question you want about PSA or whatever. I'm having fun doing it, but it is getting a little bit late here. So I am out of here. I tried to sneak out before Clover could come in here and bust me. What's happening, Clover? How you doing, man? Seriously, though, guys, shout out to the Clover Tech channel. He's doing a lot of good stuff over on his channel for the Second Amendment as far as guns. He's actually helping out gun tubers with his Gun Tuber Academy. And that's one more thing I wanted to mention real quick. A friend of mine, JJ Rainey, I don't know if he's watching right now, but he was like, dude, I'm getting some content together and I want to start a channel. And then basically I said, just do it, dude. Just be yourself, be consistent. It's just like everything in life. You work harder at it, you'll usually do a little better. It's not for everyone. Some people get lucky, some don't. It's not really luck. It's actually just people that actually are dedicated. I was like, just do it, man. And he's like, well, I have the content ready. I just don't know if I'll have any viewers. And I'm like, just again, do it, be yourself, and see what happens. So that's another way I talk about the culture. And I talk about how you guys can impact culture. That's a way to do it. If starting a YouTube channel, that's what you need to do, then go for it. I don't necessarily recommend it or disrecommend it. I could name pluses and minuses all night long. But if it's something you really want to do, just go for it. Because I really do regret. I am not perfect, guys. And I have stuff that I really wish I would have done better at. I wanted to start a YouTube channel 10 years ago. I literally bought stuff for the channel. And never even used it. It just sat in the box because I don't know why. I was afraid to come on here. Oh my gosh, what if somebody doesn't like me? What if whatever? There's probably been 5 people rolling tonight that don't like me. Who cares? Someone's not going to like you, but somebody will, and whatever. Just literally do it. And if it doesn't work out and you tried your best, then you're not going to have any regrets. You're going to say, I tried my best. It didn't work out. And maybe you'll find something else that fills your passion to, save the Constitution, save the Second Amendment, talk about guns, whatever it is. But if that's what you want to do, and again, I'm not telling you whether you should want to do it or not, because there are pros and cons to everything. But yeah, literally just do it. My brother gave me this microphone I'm using. It's literally just been out here and see, he gave this to me probably 10 years ago. This is back before Blue was even owned by Logitech. And it sat in a box for years and years and years because I was afraid to come on here, okay? I'm using it was $99 when I bought it, but now I think they're $50, Logitech webcam. I'm using a $150 refurbished Lenovo that I've had for 3 years. A lot of people, the gear is good for a lot of people. A lot of people want really high special effects. And if that's what you want and that's what you need for your channel, for your comfortable, go for it. I literally just sit in my messy shop and then I do some shooting videos outside and stuff. And I don't know. Don't get caught up in all the technicalities. Don't say, I have to have exactly this microphone. Audio is good, but you can get a good microphone for $100. That's good enough. You know what I'm saying? Lots of lighting. Lighting's very important if you want to see detail. That's cheap too. So if that's what you guys want to do, then do it. And don't wait 10 years to do it like I did, because I wanted to start a channel 10 years ago and I did not do it. So there you guys go. Hopefully you can do a little bit better. Better than I did. See you later, Mateo. I'm getting off of here in 1 second, guys. I know this topic's not interesting to everybody, but I'm seeing a couple people talking about it. Too many choices says 100%. Just YouTube for you. If it works, it works. If not, you got your opinions out there. Sure, whatever that is. I don't know. don't want to tell you guys what to do either. Now, YouTube's not for everything. There's some stuff we can't do on here because it's a company and they have rules and policies. I don't necessarily agree with all of their policies. That's why I have my locals community. I do both. If I didn't want to be on here, I'd only be on locals. I mean, we do what we want. No, I want to be here. I want to be with you guys. And you guys are a lot of the same people over there. Someone says, what is locals? It's another site that does not have the rules on guns that YouTube does. I can touch guns when I'm live. And I use it as a companion to this channel here on YouTube. And I do the stuff here that I do here. And then I do other stuff over there. It has nothing to do with dating at all. If you guys watch my last local stream, which is available for everybody, all the free members and the supporters, I was kind of having fun with that. People literally ask me a lot, like, what is it? What is it? It's like, go over there and check it out. If you don't, they have an iPhone app. They have an Android app. You can just go to the website. It's the 2A EDU Locals community. And I do extra stuff over there that I don't want to do here. Does that make sense? But I also want to be here too. Yeah, certain channels grow, certain channels don't grow. Just look. It's best, in my opinion, to do what you feel best that you need to do and what you need to do for the good fight, right? What's nice about the GunTuber Academy channel, Flood Munitions, is he will tell you how to avoid some of the pitfalls because there are terms of service here. And I know Clover doesn't like intrinsically agree with all of them. Probably almost none of them, right? I don't want to speak for you, Clover, if you're still hanging out, but you know what I'm saying? But there are policies here, and if you're not following policy, it can literally just sink your whole channel or make things detrimental to the channel. He tries to help you guys grow and get rid of some of the stress because you're always worried about, like, oh my gosh, there's this, there's that. I like that about the GunTuber Academy channel, and it also has just some different, just kind of like tips and tricks and things that some channels have had to use to learn the hard way. You know what I'm saying? And something else Clover's been doing, and I swear I was just getting ready to say this. You took the words right out of my mouth. Clover's been advocating for us, for the GunTuber community, to YouTube, right? Like literally just being an advocate. I don't know if I should say liaison advocate, but he's actually been able to voice some of the concerns and desires and issues with what the gun community has with some of the YouTube's terms of service. If you remember, not that long ago at all, if you guys go back to a year ago, you couldn't take a gun apart at all on YouTube, right? Without it being restricted. Well, then after some, we'll call them negotiations or whatever, it kind of got to the point of now you can take them apart as long as it's within certain types of contexts. So this is no different than this culture war I'm talking about with the Second Amendment. Slowly but surely chipping away and making it where YouTube's becoming. Now, Clover just said I had a great talk with YouTube today. Hit me up tomorrow afternoon and I'll fill you in. Pretty amazing stuff. And I will do that. And I am excited to hear that. Anytime we can kind of chip away a little bit. But I want to be here. This is where most of the people are at. And I truly believe politics is downstream from culture, and I want to hang out with as many people as possible. And that's why I want to stay here for so many reasons. But I understand that me being here, I just know it is what it is with certain things. That's why I also have my locals, so I can just go back and forth and do certain things in different places. Thanks for a super chat. I appreciate it, man. Let's see here. Hecton Gibbous. Did I pronounce that right? Thanks for the super chat, man. I appreciate it. It says, thanks for the good talk about the Constitution. Well, you're welcome. And he says, and thanks for, and not just talking, but being active. Just doing what I can, man. I know it's not enough by myself, and it's not enough if just you or you do, but all of us together can do quite a bit. I'm actually kind of, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I'm curious to see what, I'll get a hold of you tomorrow. I got some work to do, but I will get a hold of you when I'm driving around or whatever. Yeah, I'm looking forward to locals too tomorrow, Ron. I definitely look forward to seeing you over there and a bunch of other people. All right. Hey, I've told you guys this before, but there's always new people watching. Clover helped this channel out a lot. I I was in pretty much despair, like, do I even want to do this channel anymore? Oh, about a year and 4 or 5 months ago, because of what I thought was just some total BS. And he went in and, first of all, explained to me a lot of things that I just didn't know about. And I've been falling victim to listening to what certain YouTubers had said. They were actually kind of spreading a lot of false information. So, first of all, he cleared up some things for me that were just kind of rumors of things that weren't even true. That's where it started, really. And I was like, okay, well, it is what it is. I don't agree with it, but there's certain things here. And then it came down to where I wasn't really even doing anything wrong with my channel at all at the time. But maybe there was an error of some over enforcement of policy from somebody. Sometimes that stuff just happens. What's happening, Orange Knight? I've been doing pretty good. All right, what's happening? Edgar Reiser, nice to see you, man. All right, guys, I've talked literally forever tonight. Thanks for the stream. Glad to see you back in the shop. What's happening, Data? Nice to see you, dude. All right, guys, I have to get out of here because it's been a 2 hour and 45-minute stream. I don't do this often, but I was just in the mood to talk quite a bit for quite a while, so I need to get going. I will read all of the chat afterwards. I appreciate you guys being here, but the problem is I like you guys so much. I'll be here shouting all of you out till like 3 in the morning, and I actually have to get up and do some work tomorrow. So I'm out of here. All right, guys. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.